Good evening, everybody. This is our regular commission meeting, August 16th at 7 PM. Shante, would you call the roll, please?
Good evening, everyone. Mayor O'Happen,
Present.
Vice Mayor Samaria,
Present.
Commissioner Gonzalez, Commissioner Hammelberg,
Here.
Commissioner Kennedy.
Here.
Mayor, we have a quorum.
Okay, Commissioner Samaria, Vice Mayor Samaria, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Would everybody please remain standing? His son died. Jacob Schwartz. And we'd like a moment of silence and good wishes for Helen and Kevin Schwartz. And all the police officers, we have 2 that are in the hospital right now in Miami here. And thank you very much. Be seated. Are there any additions and deletions? I would like to change 11A to 11B and have 11B to 11A. Are there any other?
Yes, I'd like to bring up in reference to my get permission from the commission on my 9/11 collection, please, and the 9/11 ceremony that I like to have, that I have every year.
What number is that?
It's whatever you're going to put it as. Add something on to the,
Oh, you want to
Yeah.
add it? Okay. At the 9/11. Okay. Is there any place that you want to add it to?
whatever's, let's get I just need permission so that can be done anytime.
Okay. Any other additions and deletions and moving?
Jenny, if I may, you can put it at the very end. If we get to it today, it'd be great, and I'll make it really quick. I'd like to have a conversation about tree selections for Griffin Boulevard.
You want to add tree selection on Griffin. Do you know who we have to speak to on from the county on that? Mac,
I'm sorry?
do you have a name of who we're supposed to speak to?
I just want to have a conversation among us about,
Oh.
yeah.
Okay. Are there any other changes? Make a motion to approve the changes suggested?
I'll make a motion.
Vice Mayor?
I'll second.
And seconded by Commissioner Gonzalez. We have Emily. Yeah. Well, we don't have, is she on? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see it. Okay. We have a legislative update with Rep. Dottie Joseph, who's on Zoom. Good evening, Dottie.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. All right, everyone. I will try to make this quick. I'm going to limit it to the things that you need to know before your next meeting. I don't know that Dave Caserta, your lobbyist, was able to join us today. I believe he had an emergency. So I will talk more about the policy stuff and mention some of the highlights with the budget real quick. So for those who don't know me, I am State Representative Dottie Joseph, and I have the honor and privilege of representing Biscayne Park in the Florida legislature. So we had a very busy legislative session. So I'm going to break it down in a couple of parts. How much time do I have? Do I have 5 minutes or 10 minutes? So I can govern myself
Well,
accordingly.
Talk fast, go ahead. We won't give you time if you're interesting.
So let me just start off with some funds that we were able to secure that were not vetoed, thankfully, this time. We got $350,000 for the stormwater project, and they're pending some funds for Parks and Rec for some upgrades through a grant project that your lobbyist and I are working on. For those who don't know, you have in redistricting a change in your senator. So before, our senator for this area was Jason Pizzo. Now that is going to be Senator Chevron Jones. I have a good working relationship with both of them, so I don't foresee any issues at all. A couple of things that I got passed this session in terms of policy. We eliminated the 3-year statute of limitations for child sex crimes. So now an adult can be prosecuted beyond that time period. There is no limit on it. And then we also got, since the last legislative update, a bill passed to empower victims to record their abusers who are contacting them in violation of a judicially issued no contact order. Before that was illegal because Florida is a 2-party consent state. It requires the consent from the other person before you just start recording them on your phone. There are a couple of sales tax holidays that are coming up and going on that I want you all to be aware of. September 3rd through the 9th is going to be tool time. So power tools, work gloves, toolboxes, flashlights, batteries, and safety glasses will be tax-free for that period. Baby and toddler clothing, as well as diapers. We have a period from July 1st, which already started, that goes through June 30th of 2023. Some colleagues and I are still trying to make that a permanent tax exemption, but for now, that's the period that's there. Impact resistant doors and windows are tax exempt as far as state sales tax from July 1st to June 30th of 2024. So if you've been thinking about that, just letting you know that that's a thing. Elections are happening now. Voting will continue through August 21st. If you have any questions about voting, where your precinct is, all of that stuff, you can go to dottiejoseph.com/vote, and you can get all the information about early voting, election day, finding your precinct, all of that stuff. In terms of other significant bills that happened. So we had the main legislative session, and then we had 2 special sessions. So I'll run through those briefly. HB 1557, what's better known as the Don't Say Gay bill. It bans K through 12 curriculums from discussing gender identity and sexual orientation. SB 1808, it's an anti-immigrant families bill, prohibits the transportation of immigrant children to Florida, and just some issues there. SB 524, the anti-voter freedoms bill, these are different names for them, but it basically commissions a new police force for elections. It raises fines for third-party registration groups. It criminalizes people who are assisting voters with a misdemeanor to a third-degree felony, which is going to have an impact on nonprofits. It changes and limits the use of drop boxes. There was some pending federal legislation that was supposed to counterbalance some of the things that we're seeing at the state level. Unfortunately, those are still pending at the federal level. There was also HB 7, the quote unquote Stop Woke Act, which censors education and honest dialogue about anything in a way that makes people feel quote unquote uncomfortable or feel guilty based on race, gender, or anything like that. There's also HB 5, the 15-week abortion ban. I will say that I had proposed amendments to create an exception for rape, human trafficking, and something called sexual coercion. For people who are not familiar with that term, it's basically when, let's say, the agreed upon method of contraception might be withdrawal or to use contraception, the person on the other end basically does not abide by that and forces a pregnancy or forces an abortion contrary to the will of the other participating party. So basically it's a lack of consent. So that can be up to and including rape. All of those amendments were unfortunately rejected in what was finally passed. We had a first special session that had to do with redistricting. For those who don't know, every 10 years, we go through a redistricting process. In the course of redistricting, our district was redrawn so that now Liberty City is no longer in the district, and instead we have areas like Wynwood. So back in April, we convened for that special session, and most states, like the Florida legislature, we redraw those maps. But at the state level, we're responsible for the state house, the state senate, and the congressional maps. Other areas deal with different maps, like at the local government level. Those maps were initially passed. There were some current concerns about representation. And then I will say that the first two, the governor could not veto, but he did veto the congressional maps. As a result, that's what led us to have this particular special session. And unfortunately, my colleagues who are in control of the legislature decided that they were not even going to bother to draw the maps this time, even though it's our constitutional duty to do so. And we were just going to wait for whatever maps that the governor proposed, which he did. In so doing, the governor basically did away with what voters, both Republican and Democratic voters, had put into place with the Fair Districts amendments, because we had decided as Floridians that we wanted to make sure that we were electing our representatives rather than having politicians cherry pick who their constituents were going to be. So flying in the face of that, and in the face of certain federal protections we have to ensure representation, the governor redrew these maps. Based on the new maps that we have, he has cut down the representation of quote unquote Black protected districts by 50%. So instead of 4 protected Black districts, we now have 2 protected Black districts, because he says he doesn't want to take into account race. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, though he was claiming he wasn't going to take into account race, it came out in committee that his folks protected the Hispanic districts just fine, which all happened to be held by Republicans. So that's what happened in special session. And then he added on at the last minute an attack on Walt Disney to eliminate their taxing status, because they dared to speak out against him based on the Don't Say Gay bill. So that happened during special session number 1. During special session number 2, it's one that we had been calling for quite some time, to address skyrocketing property insurance rates. I personally had proposed various things throughout session to see if we could ameliorate or address this. So finally, we got one Republican to join in with us on the Senate, and we were able to get a special session. Unfortunately, okay, so let me talk about the good part of that came out of that special session. So it prevents insurance companies from dropping coverage related to roofs, and created a fund to repair roofs. So that's one positive thing that came out of it. Unfortunately, it did nothing else to help with consumers and our property insurance costs. Instead, what it did, it provided a $2 billion bailout to insurance companies with zero relief to property insurance owners. And it made it harder for consumers to get companies to have lawyers help them get their valid claims. So part of the things that people have been saying around what's making our insurance costs so high have to do with fraud. Unfortunately, the legislation did nothing to address fraud. Anyway, it was a challenge. I'll
Had
put
a
it that
busy session,
we
huh?
did. Last positive thing that came out of that session, and I'm done with this part, is we passed some reforms that Senator Jason Pizzo championed along with Republican Danny Perez to address some of the issues that came out of the Surfside collapse. So that's the gist of the legislative update. I don't know if you have any questions. If not, I'll just let you move on with your regular business.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions for Dottie Joseph? I don't see any. Thank you very much for coming, and good luck.
Thank you. I appreciate you all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, we have a presentation to us from Amy Ice. She is a Girl Scout, and they have a collection box for flags that she's donating to us. It'll be at the rec center. Go ahead, Amy.
Hi, my name is Amelie Ice. I'm a Girl Scout from Troop 1305, and I'm basically working on my Gold Award project, which is the highest award a Girl Scout can earn. And what I aim to do is, so I've created three flag retirement boxes. We've already placed one in Miami Shores and we've seen it be very successful. We just yesterday placed one in Biscayne Park and we are finishing the third one to place in El Portal. So basically in the little handout I gave, it includes pictures. It has a sign on the top that is written in English, Spanish, Portuguese, Haitian Creole, and in Braille. The box is also designed to be ADA compliant, so it stands at a height where people in a wheelchair are easily able to open the box with a handle that is also compliant. And the project is made out of like 4 components. So the collection, the retirement, the education, and then just like the promotion of it. I've actually attended events such as Green Day and the Jazz Fest here in Biscayne Park to help promote the project. So I've been talking with, residents and stuff just to like gauge their interest levels. And I've heard nothing but positive news. So very excited about that. And yeah, so the aim of the project is just to properly retire flags because a lot of people do have flags that are just sitting around at their home. And it's disrespectful to fly an American flag that is torn, tattered, faded out, because you want to represent your country. And the way that you do that is by representing it properly. And so people take these flags down, they don't know what to do with it. So then you could put in the flag box and the Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts of Troop 1305 will properly retire it. Are there
Thank
any
you very
questions?
much.
Just like to make a statement as a Vietnam vet. I want to thank you for that because a lot of people don't understand about what you're supposed to do with a flag. People don't understand when a flag is on a pole, if it's torn, that's disrespectful, or if it drops to the ground, that's disrespectful. So I want to thank you for bringing this to Biscayne Park as a veteran. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sweetheart. And thank her mother for bringing Amy. Bye-bye. Okay, with that, I'd like to open up the floor for public comments. We'll start with the people that are here in attendance. If you want to speak, please walk up to the podium and wait and speak slowly, clearly, loud, and one at a time. Go ahead. Do your name and your address, please, first.
Okay, my name is David Ash. I live at 1045.
Speak, pick up the microphone and speak into it. Okay,
Okay. Can you hear me now?
yes.
Okay, so I'm David Ash. I live at 1045 Northeast 120th Streets. And I came to give an opinion on the possibility of our losing the first 5 feet of our property. Okay, at least the property that we take care of, despite the fact that it's legally not ours. My previous residence was in a gated community in Palm Beach County, and it was beautiful. I mean, it was perfect. It was manicured, waterfalls in the front, everything you could possibly imagine. And it was also quite sterile. One of the reasons that we moved here was because we loved the neighborhood and we loved the way that the neighborhood looked. Many of us have spent a lot of time and a certain amount of money to enhance the landscaping of our homes. And we think that it not only enhances our homes, but it enhances our block and the entire neighborhood. One of the things I think that gives Biscayne Park its character and its charm is all the greenery. And I think it would be a crime if we began to look similar to tract housing. And what I mean by that is sidewalks on both sides of the street and with all kinds of rules. I realize there has to be a certain amount of rules, but I'm not certain that we need to go to this extreme. I mean, I'm hoping that if you want to do something like this, you will consider at least grandfathering those of us that, again, have put a lot of time and money into the front of our home. And just as a reminder, we have the word park in the name of where we live. And I think it's very charming, and I hope to always remain, at least for as long as I lived, remain living in a park. Thank you.
Thank you. If you refrain from clapping, we'll be a lot earlier. You can clap at the end.
Hello.
Name and your address.
Hi, my name is Stephanie. I'm at 955 Northeast 118th Street. Oh, you can hear?
Right,
okay.
right, go ahead. Speak.
I echo what you said. Thank you for saying that. I'd like to start off by saying I think we as all residents, we all want to promote safety, which I believe is part of your reason to want to do this. I was told that you were concerned that when people are walking on the street, that there would be no place to jump into in case they're being approached by a car. I'd like to talk about that and ask you, has there been incidents where this has happened? Is this truly a concern? I know that I personally put a lot of effort and expense into decorating the front part of my garden, and it serves not just a purpose of decor, but it's a natural habitat for a lot of creatures that we love, you know, the bumblebees, the butterflies. It's also educational. And then Mac has a beautiful butterfly garden, an established butterfly garden. A lot of children walk by there. They learn about the beauty of planting things. There's also something beautiful about a zero waste garden, which is what that does. If we put grass on that property, it's going to require watering. I don't have a sprinkler system set up. I'd have to rip up my driveway in order to shoot a sprinkler system onto that area. It also would require weed killers because grass is very much, you know, growing weeds, and I don't use Roundup. I think that's horrible for our water system. And also if there really is an issue about safety, we have 2 driveways people can walk onto. And I think the real crux of the matter needs to be addressed, which is speeding and maybe an influx of traffic that shouldn't be driving through our neighborhoods. I know that my ex, when he was on this board, very much tried to promote limiting the amount of traffic that's coming into Biscayne Park. And I really think if you want to do something right, maybe we can address those issues on how to limit a lot of the excess traffic that comes through here, and perhaps more slowing down speed bumps. That's what I'd like to say. So thank you.
Thank you. Next,
Lauren Caban, 940 Northeast.
speak
100.
directly into the micro, but you have to speak loud directly into the microphone.
Yeah. Can
Your
you
name
hear
and
me
your
now?
address.
Can you hear me now? All right. I'm in 940 Northeast 118th Street. My name is Lauren Caban, and I moved here in 1992. I've never had anything but positive comments about my front yard, and it is a comprehensive landscape concept. We've got a 25-foot median in the front. My neighbor asked me to join in concurrence, asking you what is the intention here? If it's, is it to enhance the neighborhood? Is it for safety? My driveway can fit over 9 cars in it. It's a circular driveway, so there's no concern about parking if I was to ever have an event in the front of my house. If it's not for enhancement, I want to know the purpose for this. I don't think safety has ever been a concern on my block, or there are some streets, and again, it's speeding. That's the concern, not necessarily having a place not to get off the street for. I want to know how many houses have been affected by this. Has anybody done a count? How many are actually a concern? Because personally, I don't see this as a problem. I see this as a commission trying to resolve a problem that doesn't exist when we have bigger problems and fish to fry, one of them being one that Danny Keys brought to our attention earlier today with your relationship and your agreements there. So I'd like you to take your intelligence and your time and your commitment and your efforts, which I know is something I wouldn't want to do. It's a lot of work and oftentimes very thankful, and I appreciate your efforts, but I really don't see this as a benefit to the community, and it certainly wouldn't be to my block. Thank you.
Thank you.
I am also on the same topic as
Name and
everyone.
address, please.
Maria, 715 Northeast 119th Street.
Marie, what?
715 Northeast 119th.
Your name?
Maria
What's your last name?
Gowdy. I also moved to Biscayne Park because of the lush landscape and the beautiful greenery everywhere. My house is has a front landscape that is urban oasis landscape with lots of Florida native and endangered flowers, and it would essentially destroy the character of the neighborhood if we were made to take it out. And I've never had any issues with safety, and it also serves as like a natural protection for the house where we are secluded and more immune to like robberies or anything like that because we're not right in front of the for everyone to see. So yes, I would really like, it would be a shame if we destroyed this part of the character of the village.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Philip Alexander.
Could you put your net mask down so we can
My
understand you?
name is Philip Alexander. Can you hear me? And I live at 745 Northeast 117th Street. It came to my attention that you guys were planning to pass an ordinance to take out all gardens in the front of the homes. I think I can only speak for my partner and I, we have a glass house. Okay, everybody? I see my neighbors every day walking by and our house is interesting. People want to stop and look in. So our garden is primarily for privacy, but also for the beauty. It's a mid-century modern home and it requires something like what we have in front. I measured today and actually it's not 5, it's actually 7 feet away from the swell. So that made me feel better. But to rip out people's gardens, to have them take all this beautiful stuff away is not the answer. I do believe that the traffic, the speeding, I work from home, so I'm always looking out the window, getting inspiration, and cars are zooming down the street. And I'm like, where are they going? Are these people our neighbors or are they from somewhere else? So I think that's the problem. So that's what I was.
Thank you. Next. Don't all run there at the same time.
I'll take a shot. I know a lot of you guys.
Name and address.
I'll get there, don't worry.
But that's how you start.
Drew Dilworth, Dillworth. Lived here a long time. I live at 10831 Northeast 8th Street. And it's good to see some of you. Commissioner Samaria. Yeah. Listen, I've lived here a long time. I think 24 years. My kid's now graduated college. He's going to Italy next year. He's going to move there for the next 5 years. So I've been through a lot of ups and downs in this town. And one thing I haven't seen in all that time is anything really happen as a result of our gardens in front of our homes. You know? Look, we got a lot of things we need to deal with. I think I'm not going to restate what a lot of folks have said here tonight. I know everybody that is up here spending their time is well-intentioned, and I admire the fact that you guys put in so much time into doing the village's business. I'm an interloper tonight. I'm coming here to support those that think that this is probably not the best use of our time. We've got a lot of other things to do in the village. At the end of the day, I mean, if in fact this is such a serious problem that's warranting the community to really think about what we've done for the last, 90 years, then what we used to do here is we would form a committee of people that were interested in talking about the subject. If there's really a danger created by, the rights of way, now that you want to call it a swale, then you would have some kind of study to say, hey, here are the real dangers that are created by our existing condition. Here are the incidents that have resulted from that. And here are some of the remedial measures that you might want to take to actually improve the condition. I don't see any of that. It honestly, Commissioner Samaria, it really feels like a rug, rug pull, and I think you understand what that means. So if you've invested, like some of the folks that have been up here tonight, talking about the time, effort, the thought that they've given into the front of their yards, about how they'll interact with they're part of our great community, and they're here expressing some dissent. You really ought to take that into consideration, because honestly, it feels somewhat heavy-handed to be talking about changing something so fundamentally.
Finish your thought.
I know, I got to tell you that the 3-minute rule really doesn't work. I was going to bring my son to reclaim his time, because he lives here too. Listen, really ought to give a little bit more thought to this. If this is something you're going to go forward with, then I think it needs something a little bit more robust in the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next.
Good evening. My name is Barbara Safas. I'm on 119th Street in 685, and I have a corner unit. So that means my front of the house are actually two sides of the house, but estate, which means one side is on 7th Avenue. And I think that's where it will be problematic, because it will steal all the privacy of our backyard. And then people still have the chance to go on the other side of the street. Or when you have a median, people can walk in the median. And I'm walking my dog and running every day. So there are ways to get around with cars, and walking against traffic that you can see cars will help you too to get out of the way of cars. So if you take that away from us, then our fence needs to be able to grow, because I have a dog, like I said. Now I have a 4-foot fence with the large landscaping that he cannot jump. So if I need to move that, then where is my backyard? And then my dog can get out too. So I think it needs to be looked at which areas we need the space for walkers and which areas we don't need to make any adjustments. Thank you.
Thank you. Barbara, you're next.
Barbara Kuehl, 777 Northeast 111th Street. It's interesting that everybody's here for the swale issue and taking out plants. Back in 2014, we did have a community workshop where residents came out filling the room about this issue. And there was it wasn't pre-planned or preordained. We actually discussed what people were in favor of. And the one thing that really brought people out with the torches and pitchforks was when there was talk about taking out the plants in the front, removing that, using the 5-foot rule. Because if you look around here, people have been planting here for 90 years. There are things that are growing, and it doesn't mean that every inch of their swale is covered with plants and bushes that are out to the road, but they may have things in certain areas. And it's absolutely ridiculous to think you're supposed to remove it and have some kind of automatic removal of everything. A 5-foot range. I have other issues with the swale proposal. The other thing that we were dealing with in 2014 was the parking on the swale. And it wasn't even an argument in the group. And I'm talking about 50 people showing up for several meetings. Nobody argued with keeping the ordinance the way it was, which gave 40% impervious parking in the front and 60% was pervious, which meant that you could have gravel on your swale to park. The way you're doing it now, you're saying you can only have one parking space. We have houses all different sizes. We have people with a 1-car driveway that can only accommodate 1 car. The houses on 7th Avenue have very shallow fronts. So you're basically telling them they have spaces for 2 cars. It's ridiculous. You pick these arbitrary things because it's almost like you're not thinking about what the community really needs. You're just pulling these numbers out of the hat. And as far as the workshops, a real workshop means people come in and you talk about what people want. And it's a back and forth. For all of it, we've done that with fences, front yard fences. We've done it with boats in the front yard, RVs, roofs. Should we have metal roofs? I know, Jenny. You know what? I never come in here, and this is really pissing me off when I read this. I'll end with this, but the whole swale thing is just some made up thing that you people think we need. I'll let Gary talk about the houses, but the other reason that the other thing I really want to talk about is the Great Waste.
Barbara, I get in trouble.
Okay, the
It's
Great
past your
Waste-
3 minutes. I did it with Dan, not doing it anymore. I'm
Okay.
sorry,
The
Barbara.
Great Waste Resolution is a disgrace that more information wasn't given to this community. There is nothing in the manager's cover letter that even talks about the price and where this money's coming from. I know Dan's going to be talking about it, so I'll let him take over after me.
Okay, thank you, Barbara. Gary,
Gary Kuhl and coincidentally, I live at the same place Barbara does. This idea of the single family house form, it kind of reminds me of a Western movie set where you have this big false front and then behind it you have some Mickey Mouse structure. This is an abomination. Unfortunately, I'm an architect and I can visualize just how ugly this would be. And to create a formula for houses, by the way, you forgot duplexes. I guess they can do what they want. To solve what problem? I have a 2-story house next to me. I put a couple of trees in and a problem. Yeah, it took a little while for them to mature, but so what? I prefer that than looking at a house that would look like this. On the swale ordinance, I'm not going to belabor what other people have said. I agree entirely. It's ludicrous. I really wonder if commissioners who are supporting this ever drove around Biscayne Park and realized the ramifications of it. But another little footnote in this was this idea of having to give somebody permission to park on your swale. I don't know whether they write you an email or call you up on the phone and say, I want to park on your swale tomorrow. I mean, that's ludicrous. I mean, we have people at parking medians. People are still parking in their front lawns persistently. I'm not talking about the occasional one. I'm talking about the people that park there all the time, and we don't enforce it. But we're going to go spend time about people parking on your swale. You know, you spend a lot of time, effort, and money writing these ordinances, and we don't enforce the ones we have. Just take, for instance, the time you spent on the fence ordinance. Okay? Meantime, I have 2 properties on my block, just in one block area, they have 2 unpermitted fences. What's the point of writing these things? I mean, the construction ordinance is only partially enforced. The Porta-John ordinance is not enforced at all. I've never seen that enforced. Why don't we just enforce what we have? That's going to be the greatest improvement rather than trying to reinvent things and come up with new ideas. Just one last little footnote on Commissioner Kennedy's idea about the landscaping, the agenda item, rather. You don't need to hire anybody. I mean, people are building $1 million plus houses, put the burden back on them, require them to hire a licensed landscape architect, not Home Depot, not a designer, a licensed landscape architect, have them submit plans that meet the intent of the Miami-Dade ordinance, which we've never enforced, which is a violation, and then have them submit an affidavit at the end of the project that it meets the requirements of the ordinance and complies with the plans. That's a no cost to the village, and it's the way it should have been done for the past umpty years.
thank you, Gary. Dan Keys.
Hi, Dan Keys, 1107 118th Street. I want to speak tonight about the Great Waste resolution. I'm not quite sure whether that's going to be pulled from the agenda tonight in favor of going forward with an ordinance. And previous conversation with the attorney indicated that that was going to be her recommendation. But I do not believe that you can make the changes to the franchise agreement, which was approved by ordinance by passing a resolution, as you're intending to do tonight. Very clearly, our charter says that any ordinance that is passed must be changed by ordinance. Therefore, you need to change the franchise agreement, which was passed by ordinance, by an ordinance. Also, if you intend to change the ordinance, you need to add the same things that are in the resolution, i.e. the permission to come up with a new way to pay the contractor through fuel charges, which wasn't authorized in the first contract. I personally would remove the manager's authority to unilaterally approve increases per the CPI. I would have him recommend those changes to the commission and have the changes made by ordinance. It's a very important thing. And what's happening tonight, folks, in the resolution is that $100,000 more is going to be paid to the contractor. That's per the only number I got in a meeting that you all had previously, might be $2 less or more. Okay. And what's going to happen is since it will no longer be collected through the garbage fee, all of that money will instead go to the contractor. Your property taxes, the revenue to your property tax side of our budget will either, we won't have $100,000 to spend there, or we'll have to come up with a tax increase to make up for that $100,000 that's being lost over here as a revenue source. Little complicated. If you go on the next door, there's a bunch of information there that I posted and so forth. The manager is making decisions, reference the way that our waste is being collected, that he's not authorized to do in any way, shape, or form. Quite to the contrary, specifically the things that he is changing, i.e. he apparently, he can contradict that, has authorized the contractor to pick up all of the debris that's on the ground with a crane. You may say that's fine, that's good. I think that in time that will cause damage to parkways that he will say that will be fixed, but that's not going to happen. Please do not pass this resolution. Do it right, put it in an ordinance, and have two readings so that we can have a little bit more time to talk about the details of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
If I may, just a piece of information. Before you proceed with the House forms, you might want to have the attorney explain the ramifications of House Bill 401.
Thank you. Next.
Good evening. My name is Ricardo Guzman. I reside at 11414 Northeast 9th
Would you
Avenue.
take your mask down while you talk, please? Thank you.
That better? Good evening. My name is Ricardo Guzman. I reside at 11414 Northeast 9th Avenue. My home is right across the street from the BC basketball court and the public parking at the park. I have been a Biscayne Park resident for 14 years. And I must say this is the first time that I come here in person to voice my opposition, as I feel so strongly against what is being considered. I'm here, as many others, to express my opposition to the proposed ordinance looking to remove the existing plant material from the 5 feet between the street and towards the property line. As a landscape architect and city planner with almost 30 years of experience in the field, I must say I know a little bit about urban design, streetscape, aesthetics. I think the proposed ordinance is a draconian approach to fixing something that is not broken. I believe there are more important things, issues in our community that warrant your attention, where I wish my taxpayers' dollars would be better spent. Speeding, crime, use of drugs in public spaces, the high cost of trash collection, which I know you're all going to be talking about soon, flooding, drainage, long-term maintenance of the streets, the quality of the conditions of the parking around the park definitely needs attention. I believe these are some of the issues I believe are more important that you all as elected officials should be talking about. The planting the swale in front of my home is not the problem. The landscape in front of my home in the swale helps to beautify the street, enhance views from the park, and improve the curb appeal of my home. Additionally, in my case, these plants and trees serve as a buffer since I'm one of the homes closest to the basketball court. You know, you'll know how busy it gets, how loud it can get, how rowdy it can get. So I'm asking to please stop this from going forward any further. You know, the landscape treatment right away and the requirement street trees is something that should be considered as part of new construction or perhaps as part of a home that may be undergoing substantial renovation.
Finish your thought, please.
Once again, this is, I feel is a draconian measure that should be imposed, that should not be imposed to those of us who should be considered to be grandfather as it relates to any new ordinance and simply trying to make our streets and community more greener and beautiful.
Thank you. Next.
Hey, my name is Mike Leovano. I'm at 710 Northeast, 117th Street. Basically, I'll keep it short and sweet. I feel like the residents are out here tonight speaking about the swale issue. And I think that the commissioners should take it into consideration. You know, everybody's out here explaining how they do not want this to happen. And we are the residents, we are the taxpayers, and we do believe that there's a lot of other things that need to be taken care of in Biscayne Park, aside from our private residents. And obviously, Biscayne Park has its own aesthetic, and I believe it's beautiful the way it is. I was born and raised here, and I don't think it's time right now for any kind of major changes like this. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
My name's Sean O'Neill. I'm a 10-year resident of Biscayne Park. I live at 11709 Northeast 8th Avenue. I live there with my wife and my two young children, 8 and 5. And I'm not going to, I support what everybody's basically saying about the swale issue, so I'm not going to repeat that. I'm here for another reason. You know, Biscayne Park is a beautiful neighborhood. We moved here to raise our family here, essentially, before we had kids. It's a great school district. And one of the things we really liked about the area was the large lot sizes as opposed to the little, you know, planned communities where you're looking, you wake up, you open your window and you're looking in your neighbor's bathroom. So why I'm here tonight is because on my street, and I know of other streets in the neighborhood where this is an issue for some people, is we have stray cats. I know this is probably going to be sensitive for some people, but my concern is I can't even enjoy my backyard anymore because several neighbors within 2 or 3 houses of me feed cats. It's actually like a virtual buffet for the cats. I mean, one feeds them in the morning around 6 o'clock, ringing the dinner bell, clinking the bowls together. Another one comes around at 9 o'clock, and then they feed them in the evening and down the street and so on and so forth. One of the neighbors has put collars around the cats with name tags on them. I can't get close enough to see, although I can see that they're engraved. But the issue is not that they feed the cats, not that they care for the cats. The issue is because they do this, in my opinion, for some reason they love my house. They hang out, they get their dinner and they come and hang out in our house, our backyard, on our patio furniture. And by the way, both me, my wife, and my son are allergic to cats. So every time we want to entertain, sit outside on our patio furniture, We have to lint roll our couches. We entertain with guests. We have to wash our fabric patio furniture. In addition to that, we have a pool in our backyard, which we added several years ago. And it smells, depending on which way the wind's blowing, you smell the cat feces. So my issue is not that people want to care for cats. I used to have dogs before they passed away, before we had children. I love animals, and everybody in my family except for me has cats because they're not allergic. The issue again is that we have an ordinance on the books about open feeding. And so I'd like to see first people educated about the ordinance, that it exists, and also have a discussion and come up with a solution, or where we get together, talk about, we want to be a bird sanctuary, but I've seen the cats walking across the backyard with dead birds in their mouth. A blue jay was the most recent one. And we love the blue jays and the cardinals that live in our trees. So I like to see you guys address this. I know it's not the most serious issue for most people, but I own a private property. I can't even enjoy the confines of my fenced-in yard, with my kids. I sent all of you an email, the commissioners, an email showing the feces on the baseball that me and my son were throwing around. And actually it was 2 in a row because I left that baseball there, got another one. He dropped the next one in the feces. So
Thank you.
I got it. I'm gonna wrap it up. Thank you. So I'd like to see you guys address this in a constructive way where people can enjoy feeding animals, but also not impinge upon their neighbors' rights to enjoy their own private property. Thank you.
Thank you. A better microphone, huh?
The microphone stand.
Next. Anybody else want to speak? Good evening, Gage.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Gage Hartung, 1029 Northeast 114th Street. Regarding the agenda items, we'll have comments on ordinance and resolutions, or just ordinances? Just ordinance, okay. So as far as the resolutions goes, I'm actually agreeing with Dan Keys and I won't go into it. I'll just say I ditto what he had to say. As far as the discussion items go, I will make myself available to ask any questions about the McMansion ordinance that's being discussed tonight. I think there's a lot of great stuff that's in it that's going to help the board, the planning board, help guide our village as we're experiencing all this major growth. Regarding the swale ordinance, it's nice to see that so many people invest so much money in the 5 feet along the front of their house. But I think that there's got to be a compromise. Landscaping out to the street is just, it's a recipe for an accident to happen. My opinion, I might disagree with everybody here. But I also want to commend you guys because I know you've been talking about this since last September. And it's nice that everyone's come out to contribute today when you've been talking about this for almost a year. I wish they would have come and actually contributed so that when the ordinance, the way it is now, would have been crafted more in light with the way that the residents here tonight are actually wanting it to be done. So I commend you on your work. I think it still needs a lot of work to do. Obviously, there's a lot of disagreement here, and hopefully there's some way of finding something that's appeasing to everybody else. And then as far as the discussion on the issue of people adding units to their homes illegally without permits, and then when they go to sell it, they sell it as a mother-in-law suite or something like, or an additional bedroom or additional thing. We do have a re-occupancy code, which it's pretty detailed on this, but I guess there are some holes in it, and also there'll be some willingness on a part of the village to actually enforce our reoccupancy, because we're starting to have homes in homes that are in single family areas that are now putting in second kitchens, second units. They're becoming de facto duplexes in single family zones. That's only going to lead to additional cars. It's going to lead to additional Airbnbs. So I hope that this discussion item 13A will be looked at, and we might be able to get some traction on that. And with that, I'll thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else here want to speak? Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Marissa Gruen, 735 Northeast 111th Street. I had to think about that because I've only been living here for about 4 months, but really I just originally came to introduce myself because I'm one of the applicants for the Parks and Parkway Advisory Board. Whether or not the issues of the SWAL ordinance would fall under my jurisdiction, I don't know. I've reread the 3 bullet points for my responsibilities many times, but I just want to piggyback on what everyone has saying is that I find it very ironic on the juxtaposition that the main reason I volunteered to take on being on the Parks and Parkway Advisory Board was because I just admired a lot of the neighbors, beautiful landscapes and their flowers. And I really wanted to just take an active role in being a part of it and beautifying our neighborhood. So I definitely want to, introduce myself. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else at the cabin here that wants to speak? Okay, I will call on Zoom.
Madam Mayor, well, we currently have 5 residents who wish to comment.
Right.
In no particular order, I am going to ask them to unmute themselves. First, I have a Mr. Marty Zayak.
Hello. Can
I
everybody hear
unmute
me?
yourself. Okay,
Can everybody hear me?
yes.
So I moved into Biscayne Park about 3 years ago with
Could you give
me and
your
my
address
family.
first? Marty,
My
one
address
second.
is 11193 Northeast 8th Court. I was attracted to Biscayne Park because it's a bird sanctuary, it's a butterfly sanctuary, it's a nature sanctuary. We have created something that is unique. Do we want to become a sterile community like Coral Gables, where all the houses have to be a certain color, where every tree has to be primed and trimmed? We want it to be natural. We want it to be wild. That's what the attraction is. We have a unique hammock, a unique natural environment there, and you guys are proposing to ruin it. I agree with everybody. I spent the entire COVID working on my front yard, and if you haven't gone by there, you should, because it's like a Fairchild Gardens. I would say that every time I'm out there, everyone that comes by says, wow, what an amazing job. Orchids, cactus, succulents, palms, natives, all native stuff to attract birds. We see hummingbirds, we have painted buntings, we have orioles, we have things that are unbelievable. Why are you gonna give that up? For some grass, for some parking? There's so much parking. Most of the houses, I think, have driveways that can accommodate 3 to 5 cars. There's the
Finish your
dog
thought.
parks, there's the swells. The roads are a disaster. Potholes. Griffin Road is beautiful now that it's been redone, but Biscayne Park is a disaster. Spend your money on that. Let nature take its course and let it be as beautiful as
I'm
it is.
sorry.
Yes,
I'm sorry. Thank you.
that's more than 3 minutes.
You're over 3 minutes, yes.
Really?
Thank you.
All right. Well, you got my point. It's a shame
we
to
did.
ruin something that's so spectacular. Thank you.
Yes, we did. Okay. Janie Anderson?
Thank you. Janie Anderson, 11th Place and 119th Street. I've communicated with several of you on the swale ordinance, and I was always assured that at the very least, existing plantings were going to be grandfathered in, but that is not the way this draft reads. Existing plantings need to be grandfathered in, so at the very least, you're not punishing those of us who have spent time and money trying to beautify not just our surroundings, but the neighborhood in general. I want to stress again the contradictory nature of a couple of the items in this swale. Landscaping's got to be 5 feet back, but there's no such restriction on vehicles. Yeah, I realize cars are mobile, but there's nothing saying they're not going to be there at the very time most people walk, which is early morning and in the evening. And it's an even bigger problem because we have a significant number of swales that are 100% developed and a significant number of duplexes. That means you've got a long row of vehicles. Now, certainly it's a whole lot safer to step off the road into some foliage than into a long row of vehicles. If you're going to allow one, you've got to allow the other. Another contradiction, we're prohibited from parking on the medians, but yet you're asking homeowners to provide for swale parking, which, okay, that's public property. Well, so are the medians, but the swales are public property we have to maintain. And there are a number of properties, the foliage is easily 5 feet back. but it has grown over significantly and it's into the road. That's a code issue. That's not an excuse for an overreaching ordinance. The other issue that's not getting near enough attention, how about the number of roads that are true tripping hazards? 10th Avenue, as it makes the curve to 108th. Several blocks of 111th, and that's just two examples because Bob and I walk those a lot. They're way more indicative of a tripping hazard than any plant. Mac, thank you so much for bringing up the additional unit issue. Ironic, those units not only cause a financial issue because they're not paying the appropriate amount of sanitation, there's the potential for serious safety issues. We just heard a case at our last code board meeting. Someone had cordoned off part of their living unit in a duplex, walled it off to be able to rent it out. Now, ironically, both sides of that duplex have their landlord permits, which should tell you that ordinance needs more teeth in it because clearly it's not strict enough. Traffic, with the encroaching development in North Miami, developments plural, we can't afford not to do something. Thank you.
Thank you. Bob, do you want to follow your wife?
Sure. Okay, on 12A, I'm looking at 10.2.5 on C, amending the village land development code. It has to do with the height of buildings.
Bob, I hate to interrupt you, but your name and your address for the secretary. please.
Bob Anderson, 119th Street in 11th Place. It has to do with the height of buildings. Our code now is just saying you can't, it's 2 stories, the maximum you can go. Has nothing is in there of how high that 2 stories can be. I urge you to go ahead and take a look on having a number that you can't have a wall go up any higher than whatever this number may be, that would be allowing for the 2 stories. And also have a number of how high the roof can go up from that. Because as you can see, housing now is going more towards, instead of an 8-foot ceilings, you're getting in the 10-foot ceilings, you're getting in the 12-foot ceilings. You go ahead and have a 2-story house with 2 12-foot ceilings in there, you got a pretty high structure. So you need to take a look on that. And also on 5.3.4, it has to do with the landscaping part on that 5 feet. Okay, the way it's worded now, if somebody wanted to plant a tree out there, they got to make sure between 3 to 6 feet, there's no branches would be into that 5-foot setback. That precludes anybody from going ahead and taking these trees, the native trees that you can get from the county at least once a year, to be able to plant them in those areas because those trees are too small. So you're going to be having branches that will be between that 3 to 6 foot height. You need to have something in there allowing people to, if they want to plant a tree, to make sure that it's not a site problem. And when it grows up, then they can start trimming them when it gets up over that 6 feet. But don't go ahead and have something that say you can't have that. And you're saying landscaping. Well, landscaping is actually a verb. What are you allowed to have there? Because landscaping will include grass, ground cover. If you look up the definition of what landscaping is, the only thing by this code, if you pass it, the only thing you're allowed to have
Finish
out
your
there.
thought, Bob.
Okay,
Finish your
the
thought.
only thing you're allowed to have out there is dirt. And if this is what you want, is 5 feet of dirt, that's the way the code reads now. Thank you.
Thank you. We have another one. You want? Go ahead. Your name and address, please.
Hear me? Yes, good. Mario, 11018 Northeast 8th Avenue. I'm here to talk about the swale. For me personally, I have a mailbox like many other people do. That's right on the curb because that's the guideline I saw by USPS. So I put it there. I didn't want it there, but I put it there. I could afford $500 to build it 5 feet back. It's not a big deal. I'm here more for all the other folks that put a lot of money and effort into their swales. And then my question is, where's the data? Like, where's the data showing this is a problem? And where's the data to show that this fixes the problem? Because if you implement this without data driven analysis and you're wrong, then it falls on you. You're not looking out for all these people that are here sitting down. That's all I want to say.
Thank you. Christine, would you like to speak? McQuinn.
My name is Megan McGuinn, and I'm here on behalf, I live at 801 Northeast 113th Street. I'm here representing myself and my parents, Christine and Mike, as they are unfortunately attending a funeral service tonight. I'm here to oppose the modification of the hedge ordinance as proposed. We believe the restriction of landscaping in our front garden is not in keeping with the spirit of the park. Our village and our family prides itself on being lush and green with landscaping. We oppose the prohibition of landscaping in our community to provide more parking. We believe the current ordinance to be appropriate and has been consistent with the park's developments and request to remain as is. Thank you.
Thank you. Juan DiPolo? Juan?
Hi, good evening. Sorry, I couldn't unmute. I'm here just to echo what everybody's saying about the proposed ordinance for the front yard and swale issue. I live at 785 Northeast 119th Street and in a corner lot with a beautiful front yard, and I put a lot of effort and time and money on keeping that beautiful for everybody to see and to keep the street as we like it, with the greenery. That on the one hand, and the other hand, I wanted to present myself because I'm applying for the advisory board of the Park and Parkways, and I wish to help keeping the Biscayne Park as green as it is. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. David Raymond?
Good evening, commissioners and fellow residents. And Madam Mayor, when I'm done, Amy and I are sharing a computer. So when I'm done, she'd like to speak as well for her 3 minutes. Anyway, mostly the swale ordinance is what I'd like to speak about. I'm going to agree with everybody who opposed the ordinance. First of all, it's written terribly. I'm sorry to the attorneys, but a lot of the things here are written terribly. I have one of the same issues with the driveway ordinance.
David, just do your address, please, for the secretary.
Oh, I'm sorry. 11520 Northeast 9th Avenue. Sorry about that. The way it's written, and I emailed all of the commissioners and Mario, and I'd like to thank Mario for responding. I don't mean to take away the wind out of your sails, Mario, but what Mario said back to me in my email was that the non-conforming use language in this ordinance would allow people who have properties that are already built out with landscaping to pass 5 feet to maintain them. The way it reads to me, it needs to be reworded if that's what it wants to say. But if it does want to say that, I still oppose it, because that means that when I go to resell my house, because of the lovely laws here, which are just, I have to tell you, some of them ridiculous. We're on a corner lot. My fence has trees, 4 mature oaks and a black sapote tree outside the fence line, because I couldn't put the fence over there because it had to be 7 feet. Because when you measure things arbitrarily, you're not taking into account what properties have. Also, we've been here 7 years. Our property value has more than doubled, thankfully. And part of that is because people love the neighborhood. They love the funkiness. If you're going to tell a new person moving in that they can't have a hedge like they have next door, or they can't plant a row of flowers or put a little flower bed out front or whatever they want to do, that's going to impact my resale value for somebody who says, hey, I want to buy this house. I can't put a hedge on it, which a lot of people do on corner lots. So to me, that's a really bad idea. In terms of safety, I really like to know what the intent is, because if the intent is safety, I would much rather jump onto a small plant or a hedge, sorry for ruining that, than to get mashed into a car, because you're also saying you're lumping in parking under here. You're asking for permission to park on a swale. Our swale on the side of 116th is very shady, thanks to those oak trees out there. People park on there all day long. Workers, people who want to walk their dogs. I don't have any issues with it, and I'm not going to sit here and give them permission. And denying people from parking on the medians when people do all the time is really ridiculous. So if you're going to do something to address safety, please look at the suggestions Mac has. I've been saying this since we moved in. We did it when we lived in Surfside. Lower the speed limit and enforce the laws. People speed through here like maniacs. And I know the commission has some rules of what they can tell the police and not tell the police, but please look at the number of tickets they're giving out or what they're doing, because the speeders are getting worse and worse. And eventually somebody is going to get hit by a car and hurt or killed. So I would just like to ask you to please just knock off the crazy kinds of things that you're coming up with here that have no relevance to real life. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Hi, it's Amy. Hi, Amy Raymond. Oh my God, he's got this weird seat. Hi. Yeah, I mean, guys, really, I agree with everybody except for one person who didn't agree. There are so many things we need to do here. You need more ideas of what we need to do here. Come on, it's ridiculous. I walk twice a day. I walk at night, and I want to say something about the rec center at night. Kids screaming, playing basketball after dark, cursing, kids playing in the playground. I don't want to say anything bad about the cops. I'm glad that we're pretty crime free, but come on, let's get on, people. I jump away from cars. The speeding's out of sight. I don't want to repeat what everybody said, but we want Biscayne Park to stay beautiful. This is not a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else on Zoom that wants to speak? Anybody in the
Madam Mayor,
log cabin?
Madam Mayor, I have some comments that I need to read
Okay.
into the record.
Go ahead, Chantal.
Good evening. The first comment is from Claire Obarzik. Probably butchered it. I apologize. Address 11709 Northeast 11th Avenue. This email is to address the desire to destroy our lush and beautiful trees in Biscayne Park. I am totally against this. I apologize for not being able to attend the Zoom meeting. When I bought into Biscayne Park a few years ago, what made me desire this wonderful hidden gem, green gem, is the foliage and trees that obviously took many, many years to grow. All my friends that have visited are so impressed by our wonderful, wonderful greenery. I walk every day and sometimes 2 times a day, and I have never had any trouble to need to get off the road. It saddens me to see that there are those who would like to take our beautiful gem and make it into a mundane and mediocre area. This is not what we bought into, for I believe it will lower the value of our properties and have us become like everywhere else. We need our trees, not more grass. There are cars that do rush through our area that do not belong, for they are using us as a shortcut. We can more focus on adding more stop signs to make more 4-way stop signs or more speed bumps. That is more of a solution than destroying what we have invested in time and much monies to maintain and add to Biscayne Park beauty. Again, I protest against the destruction of our area. Thank you, Claire. Eric Amsler, address 860 Northeast 109th Street. Yes, I would not be happy about any of the possible codes. We bought this house because of the lush trees and plants that line our front yard. Not to mention, we just did a ton of work to our house and yard with the intent just being that nice gardens, trees to help with privacy. And you are correct. We live in an area of great birds, wildlife, which all be gone if this gets done. And we will look like rundown parts of Miami. I've always loved Coconut Grove and the way they embrace it. While our much smaller area tries to make things worse, Let me know what else I can do to eliminate this poor idea by commissioners. Matt Davis, 12000 Northeast 11th Place. It doesn't make sense to say that landscaping and mailboxes must be set back 5 feet, but you can make permanent improved parking and park cars in the swell. This is completely the opposite of the direction we should be headed to beautify the neighborhood. No one wants to walk down the street and stare at a bunch of cars lining the road. From a safety standpoint, this is not better. If 2 cars are parked on opposite sides of the road and 2 cars are passing in the road, there's nowhere for the walker to get out of the way. If someone desperately needs a parking place in the swell, there should be a process for it. We do not need an ordinance that encourages it at the expense of low maintenance landscaping and mailboxes. Mariana Fiera and Amy Alonso, 825 Northeast 113th Street. Thank you all for your hard work and communication on this important matter. We strongly oppose this measure. We have been proud residents of the park for close to 15 years. We love our city, our home, and enjoy our yard very much. And lastly, Sander Satcher, probably Share, sorry. Probably mispronounced it, but my apologies. Dear Honorable Mayor and Commissioners, I have been following the discussions on pedestrian safety, and I encourage the commission to study this. I support the below memo. I am in full support of the discussion, not because I think we have pedestrian safety issues. The facts don't support that our pedestrians are in danger. I am in support of this because we do have a traffic problem. Biscayne Park continues to be a literal driveway between 107th Street and 125th and between 125th and 6th Avenue. I have long supported initiatives to study this and examine traffic mitigation strategies, and hope that the village takes this seriously. Regarding pedestrian safety, we have medians and driveways. It's what makes Biscayne Park so unique. There are plenty of places to step off the road, even if plants are there. We allow cars to be parked all along the swell. Pedestrians can step into an area that is suitable for cars, or a planted area, or an area with natural landscape. This is an answer to a question that does not need to be asked. We are not a homeowners association looking for a uniform street sidewalk connection. We don't even have sidewalks. That's the beauty of it. In addition, we have massive medians throughout the park. How much sense does it make to think that our residents will not just continue to do what they do right now, which is walk the medians? Let's have this conversation with common sense and with an eye towards mitigating cutting through traffic. We don't need to negatively impact homeowners from beautifying their front yards with a solution to a problem that does not exist. I would appreciate it if this email can be provided to the commission as a part of the formal public comment section, as I will be out of town. And I can forward this to you all as well. Thank you.
Comment? I'm sorry. I'd like to close public comments, and we'll go on to Commissioner's reply. And Vice Mayor Samaria, you're first? No?
I'll take it first. I was the one who brought this up. This was not something that was thought up by the commission. This was the work of the Code Review Board, of which Gage and Gary Huell and myself and about 5 others were a part of from years past. We had redone the roofing ordinance to allow metal roofs. We had redone fencing to allow fencing on corner lots to come closer to the street so that people could use more of their lots. And the swale thing we were tasked to do primarily because of pedestrian safety. We did have a young boy who was hit and dragged and severely injured in Biscayne Park several years ago. That was about the time, if I recall correctly, that we were doing this. We have had constant emails that come through from people who say, I had, cars threatened me and I had no place to go. So we tried to do something. There was a time people were talking about making streets one way. There was a time people were talking about putting up sidewalks. And we thought that if we gave people a way to get off the street where there would be some place for them to step to, and then the landscaping could go up as it gets further from the road, that was the intent. Ripping landscape out of people's front yards was never the intent, nor was it ever a part of what we've discussed. So I don't know where people have gotten that idea, but that has not been a part of it. But pedestrian safety has been. We cannot stop the other cars from driving through our village. It's a public roadway, and we can't say, as much as we've heard people say they wanted it to be a gated community. It's not a gated community, and we took money from the county and the state to help with our roadways, and we can't just close them off without major financial repercussions. But we have been discussing this for a year. It's been going on for a while. We're not trying to rip out people's gardens. We're just trying to make a safer space for people to step off the road. It's a work in progress. It's a draft. I'm glad people are involved and are coming out, but I don't know where everybody thinks that we're going to go in with bulldozers and rip out their front yards. That was not what we've ever discussed. That was not our intent. We love the beauty. We love the landscaping, and the landscaping is critical to keeping our flood risk lower.
Thank you. Commissioner Gonzalez, do you have any comment?
Yeah, just briefly, what she said, but also, it's quite apparent people really love plants in this community. With having so many important things on this agenda, and we've been really focusing on just the swales and the plants pretty much this evening. But I will tell you that when I first heard this come up, I thought it was a good idea, but having heard from many of the residents in our community about this, I changed my mind because, obviously I'm not here to represent just what I think. I'm here to represent what you all want as well. So I did change my mind on the situation. I found it a little bit hypocritical about, allowing vehicles to park on there if we're really discussing safety issues. If your entire swale is full of vehicles, you still can't walk off the street and jump on top of a car. So it just seemed a little hypocritical. I think that the code currently, as it stands in our code, is fine as it is written, with allowing the visual, having a certain height. There is in our code now, you have certain heights in order to have visual to get in and out of your driveway. Yeah, the triangle. I think that that's very important, but like I said, I changed my vote on the last time. I want to also address briefly, Sean, with the cat situation. Obviously, this is something that's come up a lot in the past, and it's really unfortunate. There's just a certain amount of things that we can and cannot do. We've had catch and spay and neuter. And the reality is that, we have to do everything that we possibly can legally. And part of that is enforcing our code about open feeding, which is obviously a problem. And we need to address that. Today, we're probably not going to have an opportunity to discuss this further because we have a full agenda, and we've talked a lot about swales today. So but I hope to talk about it a little bit more in the near future. And it's a very unfortunate situation. That's it.
Commissioner Kennedy?
Yeah, a couple of things real quickly. So first of all, I want to thank the two Parks and Parkways applicants for joining us. And hi, Marissa. I'm Mac. We spoke on the phone. Juan, I'm sorry you couldn't join us here, but thanks to both of you for applying. Sean, regarding the cat situation. So Sean and I met with Mario and we had a conversation, and Mario and I witnessed it for ourselves. Sean, I take it very seriously. You're not the only person dealing with this. All the commissioners are aware of the different places in the village where we have problems with communities of cats. It's a serious problem, and we do have other things we can do about it. So I will be bringing to an upcoming meeting discussion about addressing our open feeding laws, because those can certainly be tightened up, and it may not solve the problem, but it should certainly help the problem. And at least it gives the police chief's code department the teeth that it needs to make something better for you. Okay, I'll be bringing it to the commission.
Okay, thank you. Vice Mayor Maria.
First off, I want to thank everybody for coming out. And I think I need to take an example from Commissioner Kennedy. If I want to concentrate on one subject matter, especially when it benefits me, that I need to have a campaign on next door, because he's done a really good job on this. We're not taking away, my intention and my vote is not to be taking away people's landscaping. I think it's beautiful. I just have a concern about safety. And I wonder if a resident, if somebody falls on your landscaping, are you going to be okay with it? Or are you going to try to cause problems with that person for falling on your landscaping or walking on your landscaping? I haven't made a decision about this. I just think that you're going to be grandfathered in if it's going to be done. But the landscaping, I don't want to take landscaping. I think it's beautiful. First off, I believe it's your property. You should be able to do you should be able to do whatever you want with your property. I've always believed that. But I do have concern about the safety issue. And I'm open and I'm listening. I've been listening to all the residents tonight. And I haven't made up my mind on this item. I'm not going to tell somebody what they can do with their landscaping. I think the only concern that I have is the landscape that goes too much onto the road. If it stays back a little bit from the road, I have no problem. That's your property. You can do whatever you want. But I have one landscaping that goes onto the road. To me, is a safety issue. And again, I'm open for this. I'm not haven't decided on what I'm going to do yet. But I am not going to stop people from having landscaping. That's not my goal. You're going to be grandfathered in. I just don't want to have trees and stuff and plants that are coming right onto the road. I like to have a compromise, and hopefully if that means that we have to put this ordinance off to have that compromise, I have no problem with this. But we have, as Mr. Gage has brought it, we have done this since September. And with all due respect to the residents that are here tonight, nobody was here during the time when we were discussing it before. No, don't get me wrong. I'm not criticizing residents that are here tonight. Like I said, I'm giving credit to Commissioner Kennedy because he got this organized. He got this organized pretty good. And with all due respect, it affects his property. And I congratulate him because that's what a commissioner is supposed to do, is supposed to, campaign for issues and get people participating. I believe he's sincere about getting the residents to participate. So I'm not criticizing him for that. But I just think that, we need to look into this and we have to listen to the residents. As Commissioner Gonzalez says, I'm not here for what I think. And right now, a lot of the residents have, in a way, changed my mind on how. That's why I said I had a decision what I was going to do before I got here today. But after listening to the residents speaking, I would have liked to have seen residents that are for this ordinance show up. Again, no other commissioner promoted. I'll give Commissioner Kennedy a credit for promoting that to get the people that are against the ordinance to show up. But I would have liked to have heard from other residents. Again, I haven't made up my decision on what I'm going to do yet, but I have, have an open mind that I didn't have before because I work for the residents. Okay, it's not what I think. I might be against an ordinance, and I am when I first did this, but I am opening up to what the residents have to say. But I haven't made my decision yet on it. I really wasn't going to comment on this, but everybody else made. I don't like to make comments on what residents say. I like to make comments on when I talk about the item. Okay, so again, I want to thank everybody else for showing up tonight.
Thank you, Dan. Okay, I just want one reminder to everyone. We all are residents here, and we all want the same thing. Okay, the next is reports, and I'd like to call on Commissioner Hammelberg, who's a member of the Board of Directors of the League of Cities, and she'll give a report on the League of Cities.
Hi. I attended the July 13th Board of Directors meeting for the Miami-Dade League of Cities. This was a follow-up to an April 2021 issue with the county, where the county was trying to put through a rapid transit zone ordinance, where they were trying to take all properties that were within a half inch of the rapid transit, which would be our train line, a half a mile of our train lines, and overriding our zoning for those properties to make the properties near the train lines high density. With Miami-Dade League of Cities, we fought it, and the county realized they were not going to get what they wanted. They did back down. They did make an ordinance that said that different municipalities could either opt in or opt out, rather than mandating that we lose our rights of zoning over our properties. And they exempted all residential, single family and duplexes from that ordinance. In the end, we pretty much all voted for it, except I think it was Palmetto Bay, because they're pretty high risk. They do have commercial properties that are there. It does not affect us the way it's currently written, but it does affect the cities and towns that have commercial properties that are near to the train lines. I mean, here they want us to have high density so that will be more ridership for our trains, and we don't have trains that we can take in and out of the city. It's absurd. So we had a long discussion about that, and I was happy with the outcome of that. Our follow-up meeting on August 16th that we were supposed to have for the board meeting was canceled and postponed due to the police officer who was shot. Mayor Levine Cava was supposed to be the speaker at that one, and because of the police shooting, she did not attend. The other thing I've done is I attended the Clean Campaign Seminar via Zoom on August the 3rd. And there was an August the 4th board meeting in person. I was unable to attend because the day before I had been exposed to somebody who had COVID, and I did not want to expose anybody. That's my report.
Are there any boards, heads of boards that want to speak, give a report? Seeing none. Any of the commissioners have any reports to make?
Yeah, I have a couple of real quick things. Do the guys want to go first? They have anything?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Commissioner.
Well, first of all, the foundation elected a new president, so I just want to say congratulations to Jill Grukin. She's been working really hard with the foundation, and now she's going to take over the top spot there. I want to thank Shantae for the great work that she's been doing with communicating some stuff on behalf of the village. And most specifically for communicating all the election and voter information. So I'm a big proponent of people voting and getting registered and doing their job as good citizens. And you've been sharing good information for people to get out there and register to vote. So thank you for that, Shantae. The Parks and Parkways Board. The board kind of fell apart. We had some people leave the board and it's not functioning. But tonight we're going to vote on Marissa Grun and Wanda Paulo to populate the board. But commissioners, we still need a minimum of 3 people on that board for it to function, so they have a quorum. So I recruited Marissa and Juan both. If you guys could help me get some other people on that board, some people who know plants, love plants, or bring organizational skills and the other things that make a board function well. Dan Keys, we need you back on the board, buddy. I'm hoping, Mario, when you give your report, if you wouldn't mind giving us an update on 826 Northeast 121st. It's the house, the abandoned structure that we've talked about here at the meeting. Residents keep asking me where that is, and I know it's kind of moving through a process. And if you wouldn't mind explaining that to people, I would appreciate that. And Judy, thanks for the League of Cities update. I first learned about that from you, I think at our budget workshop. So whoever all was working on that there, that's very nicely done. I knew nothing about that. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, we'll have the manager's report. Mario Diaz.
The manager's report is submitted in writing to answer Commissioner Kennedy's question. The property owner is going through the various steps that they need for planning and zoning and their code compliance. They're not working with the village at this point. They got to meet their own requirements first.
I'm sorry, you said they're not working with the village right now. They are
No,
working.
we're not doing anything with
Oh, I
them.
see.
They have to go through planning and they have to go through their code boards
And they're staying on the agendas and showing up and doing what they need to do.
as of that I'm aware of.
Okay. Okay, thanks. I don't want people to think we forgot about it. That it's a big.
Okay. Our consent agenda, I'd like a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, Vice Mayor Samaria did, and I need a second.
I'll second it.
Commissioner Hammelberg. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay, consent agenda. The ordinance. Valerie? 10A, 11-6.
Yes, an ordinance of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, amending section 11.6 fences, wall and hedges of chapter 11 accessory structures of the Biscayne Park Land Development Code to amend subsection E of section 11.6.3, prohibiting the use of secondary fence or decorative fencing materials on chain link fences, requiring landscape materials where an existing chain link fence is facing the front right of way, providing for inclusion in the code and scrivener's errors, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Like to open up the floor for public comments? Are there any public comments on the ordinance 11.6? Okay, I'd like a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Commissioner Hammelberg made the motion and a second.
I'll second.
Commissioner Gonzalez. Okay, can you call a roll? Is there any discussion?
Can we
on that?
discuss? Yeah, I would like to discuss because it specifically says on chain link fences. I've got a metal fence. Does that mean I could do it on my metal fence that's not chain link? So do we need to put in the chain link fence part, or should we just say that it's not allowed on fences?
What section is that, Judy? Oh, I see. Is it E? Yeah. I'm just wondering what paragraph she's referring to specifically. You mean E as in Edward?
It's right on the ordinance.
Right, I'm reading it right on the ordinance. It says chain link.
Yeah, I'm reading it.
There were two additional sentences that were added to subsection E. The first is that no secondary or decorative fencing will be permitted on any fence. So that's not just limited to chain link. Then based on the consensus of the commission, the direction that was given at last meeting, you wanted to provide that non-conforming chain link fences facing the front right of way of the property have to be shielded with landscape material.
Okay, that answers your question.
But to her concern, it is any fence?
So any fence. Now, the other question is, if I have a neighbor who has a chain link fence that's a gate. So that's a gate because if the septic tank company needs to come and pump it out, it needs to be able to open. So if we're mandating that they put landscaping in front of their gate, then they have no access to their backyard with anything.
I don't think it would be applicable because this is for where it faces the front right of way.
It faces the front.
Then it would not cover the gate. It's only for the fence.
Okay. Okay.
I thought part of our code was, I remember when I did this years ago, we couldn't put a metal chain link fence as the gates going that face the front of my house.
We can't.
If if you lived there in 1962
Okay,
and you put it in 1962 and you had permits for it in 1962,
Grandfather, I know.
you got it.
Okay.
So,
That's why this only addresses the existing non-conforming ones, such as that one.
Okay, is there any other discussion?
Yeah, I have one quick thing. So letter I as in indigo is the non-conforming section. And it says all fences with secondary or decorative fencing materials legally existing at the time of the ordinance, meaning they're grandfathered in or they exist now. They're allowed to remain until such time that the fence or secondary or decorative fencing materials may be replaced in whole or part, at which time the fence shall conform in all respects to this section. It's the may be replaced part that I think is a bit passive. This is where we typically have language that grandfathers things in and until the point that they're deteriorated to a certain degree. And we always use the number 50%. So we did it with driveways, for example. We do it with lots of things. That's not included in here. The way I read this, unless Valerie, you tell me otherwise, the way I read this, it's if you go to change something, then you have to bring it up to current code, but it doesn't address that it has deteriorated to a certain point and the village is saying, hey, that looks really bad. You need to fix it. And at that point, it's all got to be brought up.
That is correct.
It's correct the way it's written or what I said is correct?
What you said is correct.
Okay.
It doesn't provide for the 50% deterioration.
Okay.
It's only for those that are replaced in whole or in part.
Okay.
If you guys, it can be added. If there's a consensus of the commission to do that, then yes.
What do you guys think of that?
I agree
Alright,
that
Judy?
if it's deteriorated, they have to comply. to the
That's a good idea.
I like that. I agree, Commissioner Kenny.
Okay, do we need to make a motion? Oh, someone already made a motion. Do I ask them to amend their motion?
I asked them to amend your motion.
oh, happy to amend my motion.
It would be to approve the ordinance as amended to provide for the 50% deterioration.
Correct.
Right, we're adding that, Judy. And Commissioner Gonzalez, you seconded it? Yes. You agree?
Just wondering if this is going to affect construction fences and the green screening that's put on most of them. I don't know if that's dealt with in the ordinance.
That has its own ordinance.
So, so does one ordinance saying no fence shall have it trump the other one that says it must have it?
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor of?
Well, I think.
Can we address that? I mean,
I was only going to address it if the commission asked me to.
yes, I'm asking you to address it, please.
Those are two completely separate ordinances. Construction fencing is temporary in nature and has its own. It provides for screening. That's distinct from this, which is for permanent fencing, and it does not provide for decorative screening.
Okay.
Shall we vote?
All in favor?
No, it's be a roll call.
Roll call, sorry.
Mayor O'Happen,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Samaria,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez, Commissioner Hammelberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Kennedy.
Yes.
Ordinance number 2022-07 passes first reading.
Okay. The next is our resolution, 11B, Resolution 2022-38.
A resolution of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, approving a collective bargaining agreement between the Village of Biscayne Park and the Dade County Police Benevolent Association, the PBA, which is attached here too as Exhibit A, authorizing the mayor and village manager to execute said agreement, authorizing the village manager and village attorney to do all things necessary to effectuate this resolution, providing for an effective date.
I make a motion to approve resolution 2022-38.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion made by Vice Mayor Samaria and seconded by Commissioner Hammelberg. Is there any discussion on this from the commission?
I asked all my questions of Mario and he answered them, so I'm good with this. I just want to say thanks, Valerie. You're very good at adding the non-discrimination language in all of our contracts to protect people with regarding gender identity and sexual orientation. So we need to protect all of our folks in blue. Thank you.
Okay, a voice vote on this? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that's passed. Resolution 2022-34, Great Waste Contract. Valerie?
A resolution of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, approving a first amendment to the agreement with Great Waste and Recycling Services LLC, providing for an increase in rates, providing for addition of equitable adjustment terms in the agreement, providing for waiver of the franchise fee for fiscal year 2023, and authorizing the village manager to execute said amendment, providing for incorporation of recitals and providing for an effective date. So before we proceed with this item, just to provide a little context, did look into both the resolution and the ordinance that approved the award and also the franchise agreement. And so our recommendation would be to defer this item as we will bring it back as an ordinance, which would require 2 readings. It's more form over substance. It's not going to change necessarily the outcome depending on what the commission wants to do. But that way it could be done in accordance with the previous resolution and ordinance. So what I would like though, before you guys take a motion to defer, is to at a minimum discuss whether it's even consensus for this. I don't think there's a point in coming back for an ordinance on first reading if there's no consensus for the amendment.
Thank you. Okay. Does anybody have, we have to get a motion before we discuss it.
My recommendation would be a motion to defer and then to discuss and then have a discussion and then you can.
The deferral.
Motion to defer. Vice Mayor Samaria did a motion to defer. Is there a second on that? Thank you.
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Hammelberg. Okay, discussion?
And I'm sorry, was there anybody else? I kind of jumped the gun that wanted to do public comments on this item? Even though it's going to be deferred.
I think it was, you wanted to comment on it?
Oh, I'm sorry, this is a resolution.
Resolution.
As an ordinance, you have an opportunity, my apologies. So, but either way, if there can be consensus or some direction about whether or not the amendment will be agreeable, because otherwise we won't bring it back as an ordinance.
Well, you mean the entire, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Art, I'm sorry.
Well, when you say consensus, that we do this defer, that we're deferring this, or because we were going to discuss a bunch of stuff about this, right? There's going to be discussion on this topic about what other cities are doing and whatnot. So without all of those discussions, I'm not in a position to tell you yay or nay at this point.
Mario, do you have an?
Yeah, so I think the intent is to have the discussion and then be able to determine whether the item would move forward as an ordinance or not. And so I do apologize that the memo did not include the fiscal impact. I'm not quite sure why that didn't save. But essentially, just to give a quick recap, based on our discussion from the June meeting, Great Waste, as per their contract, made a request to increase the contract 3 months before the anniversary date. We went in and they requested 2 things: one, CPI, and also if the village would consider doing an increase with regards because of the cost of fuel, which has at that time essentially doubled from where they had come forward. So after working and looking at the numbers, their initial request I felt was too high. We negotiated that down, and then I brought it to the commission for consideration. I did not unilaterally approve anything, even though the contract says it can. I think that still needs to come to the commission, so I brought it to the commission. The fuel costs, as a recommendation from our attorney, it was a great idea as set a threshold. If the fuel cost is below that, they don't get a fuel surcharge on the contract. If it's above, then they do. Looking at different ways to pay for what this could be, one of the things that I wanted to do is try to keep the cost as flat as possible for the residents. And that's something that we were able to accomplish. Prior to this year, the rate for sanitation was not the market rate. And so when we did go to RFP, we saw that the market rate came up and it was about a $200 increase from what was being paid before. So I wanted to try to keep it as flat as possible because another rate increase, to me, I thought that was too big of a jump to begin with. There was a few different ways that could have been accomplished. And I worked with Paul, our finance consultant, Paul Winklejohn, to see how we can do that. One of the ways that we can do that, because the franchise fee is essentially the same cost as what the increase would be, essentially by waiving the franchise fee, we would be paying for that increase without it being passed on to the residents. And so we still have the transfer from the sanitation department into the general funds, as you'll see in the revenues when we talk about it on Thursday. However, we did not have a rate increase for the sanitation cost. And so the numbers were all working out. In June, there was a couple questions, and it's the chart that I provided. One of the questions that the commission had is what's going on with other municipalities and with their other clients. If you remember Great Waste, we are only their second municipality that they've gone. They're kind of the new kid on the block when it comes to municipal work. Probably one of the reasons why they were so aggressive with their pricing. Their other municipality is Key Biscayne. The main difference, and you'll notice they essentially requested the same amount from everybody, their commercial and municipal. Key Biscayne is giving them a 4% CPI increase. However, what they're doing to make up the difference is they are working on behalf of Great Waste to give them exclusive rights to the HOA and commercial accounts that are within Key Biscayne, which they currently do not have. What this means is they would then be working, to put it simpler, they're getting a bigger piece of the pie as opposed to the slice that they currently have. So they are getting more, and they've agreed that yes, that would kind of help supplement. One of the big reasons it would help supplement, because most of those accounts are not, if not all of those remaining accounts are not single family homes. And so they are large condo buildings, they're commercial. So it's one truck that comes in, picks up the dumpster and hauls it out. So it makes it a lot easier to be able to service. The others, you'll see that they've received the increase, whether it's the Fort Lauderdale Airport, malls, management companies, shopping centers, or retail stores. They've received anywhere between 14 to 24 or 25% from existing customers. So their request was in line with what they've requested from everybody. I think what we've negotiated and took a look at is what's unique to Biscayne Park. And again, it all depends whether the fuel stays above or goes below a certain threshold, where it, at one point for the past year, which they have been paying, and they did not ask the village to make up any difference until the contract allowed them to make the request. It doubled on them. So what's being presented was the increase in CPI, and if diesel is above $3.72, which is the mark that was used, I believe it was one of the last reports, I think year over year that we looked at from when the contract started, then they would get the surcharge, and we would be looking at that on a quarterly basis. So that's the intent of the item, and kind of how we've got in here.
Madam Mayor, question that I need to ask. If we defer this goes into ordinance for ordinance part, right? And it costs us money. Could we get an idea for a consent from the commission on whether or not that they're really in reference to this resolution in support of some kind or what? Because if it's a majority of for it or against it, I think to move it, to go forward and spend the money for 2 ordinances, 2 readings. I expressed my feelings about this when this first came up, about me owning a business, and my prices are based upon a contract. They signed a contract and the fuel costs have gone up. Yes, they should have already figured that out. So I mean, I would express how I feel about this, and I can't, even if it comes forward in 2 ordinances, I'm not going to support it. I like to get a consent from everybody in this commission on what their feelings a little bit, even not making their final judgment. I'm not saying for people to make their final judgment, but I just, they have a contract with us and I think they need to live up to the contract. So I can't support this no matter if it goes forward in ordinances.
Well, I worry about losing them because I really don't want the county. I think that we looked into the county. That would be our next option. And not interested in having the county. Commissioner Gonzalez?
Mario, so just to be clear, their request is for, what is it, you say 4% of the CPI?
Correct. And then the fuel surcharge.
And then the fuel surcharge, and that would total up to how much? The whole thing would be what?
It's about 10%.
About 10%, which is basically what they give us on a yearly basis.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money, but at the same time, being in business for myself, when fuel costs have gone up, I've had to raise my rates because you can't stay in business losing money. So again, we have a contract with them, but if we don't accommodate for them, are we going to be without waste and end up with the county? And that's something I'm not looking forward to.
My only question is, when it goes down, are they going to give us money back? If fuel costs go down, are they going to say, okay, you guys, we're going to give you some money back? They're not going to do that. They're going to keep the money.
But it's being assessed on a quarterly basis so that it will go up and go down as it needs to go up and go down.
100,000. I mean, that would only be for 1 year. So if it goes down, we won't be.
And we are evaluating the fuel surcharge on a quarterly basis.
Yeah. Commissioner Kennedy, do you have any? comment?
Yeah, so a couple of things. First of all, Jenny, to your point that you're afraid that we'll lose them, we have a contract and we can cancel the contract for convenience, but they cannot, can they, Valerie? And they can't cancel the contract because they asked for a raise and we said no.
No, they cannot terminate for convenience. If they were to terminate, it essentially would be a breach, but we discussed before, then the village's remedy would be to sue them.
Right. So look, it's not as easy as just saying we piss them off and they're, and
I hate to have people work for me that don't want to.
well, look, sometimes things don't go everybody's way. I get that. And I understand what Judy said as well. But when it's a contract situation, it's different. You know, we put an RFP out for a company to bid on the job and they bid on it. They put the bid together. We accepted it and we negotiated some things. So I appreciate the position they're in, but it's different when there's a contract. So I have a couple of other questions. So, I mean, basically we're going to lose that. We're going to lose 10%. What are our other options, Mario? Could we say no to this now and keep an eye on fuel and come back and look at it again? And could we volunteer to say, look, let's defer this to January. I'm making something up here as I talk. Let's defer this to January and keep an eye on things and see how it goes? Or do we have to do it now for some particular reason? Because it's not a budgetary concern for us in terms of setting the solid waste fee. We've already done that. We're not, just so everyone's aware, we're not increasing, regardless of what happens here, we are not increasing the rate that anyone pays for their trash collection. We already set the fee. Now we can't change it if we wanted to. The impact on the village is the fact that they pay us back, they pay us for the pleasure of doing business with us. They write us a check, and they want us to not accept that check for a year. So that's the impact. But the money comes from somewhere. So it's tax revenue one way or the other. So I'm sorry, I asked you a question, then I kept talking. So Mario, could we punt and volunteer to come back and address this again?
To first clarify, they never proposed waiving the franchise fee. That is a proposal that staff has made in lieu of increasing the rate on the residents. So they have been paying the franchise fee and they're okay continuing with that. But in lieu of raising the rate from 658 to a possible 7 something, this is how we've worked it out so that it doesn't affect the.
It's a way for us to
rate
get
this
to
year.
the same place without having to do.
There's a few different options that the commission can take. Obviously, they all have different ramifications as to what happens. And so the commission can do nothing and not accept the increase. Yes, we still have a contract. During a time where we have the quote unquote great resignation, and especially in this industry where you have manual labor, there's a constant rotating door of trying to make sure that everything is being serviced, right? So there could be, without that increase, and the vendor could now say, okay, we're not going to continue to pay the overtime that we need to make sure that we're maintaining the service at the quality that we're providing. We're not going to do certain things. They can continue to operate that the way they're doing, which I have no indication that they would reduce service. But again, I'm not dumb.
Can they reduce service?
Very frequently, because of the amount of trash that is developed from Biscayne Park, the truck gets full, they have to go out, they come back later in the day, even though it's already past normal when the operators stop working. So they do come back. They do come on Wednesdays when typically there is no pickup to help pick up. So yeah, they can easily say, our truck is full, it's already towards the end of the day. Well, it wasn't picked up, we'll have to pick it up another day.
Okay, then I misunderstand the nature of our agreement with them, because the contract says they do the work, what it takes to get it done. So
Yeah,
if their
we
truck
would-
is full
we
and
would-
they have to come back, they have to come back and finish the pickup.
We would cite them. We would say, hey, per the contract, you got to do this. They have a certain cure period, and then they can meet that cure period because it's about a week. The other option is we can terminate. And there's a couple different options with terminating. Terminating, you go to the county, which is not an option that anybody wanted, even though it is the lowest cost. But bulk pickup only becomes when requested, I think twice a year. The other option is going to the second place bidder and trying to negotiate, but that was Waste Pro, which nobody wanted them to come back as an incumbent, which was already when we came into the contract, their rate was at $750 something per year. So it was about $100 more than what Great Waste was. You can go to the third place, which I don't recommend because again, you're going from 1 to 3, and they were already at about 900 to 1,000.
I'm not suggesting
so
that. My question was, do we have to do this tonight, or could we punt? Could we say?
We did it per
let's
the
table it,
contract.
Let's say no right now, and we'll come back.
Per the contract, it was supposed to, the decision was supposed to be done for July. We would be deferring it if there's consensus regardless. I don't think that they would be opposed to come back. Come back in January, like you've mentioned. I don't know. I
Let's
would
pick that date, but yeah.
Yeah.
Mario,
we would have to ask.
Can we hear from the representative that's on from Willie and just get their input?
Sure. Willie asked to unmute, so if you can unmute yourself, there you go.
Yes, good afternoon, Madam Mayor, Commissioners, City Attorney, City Clerk, and Mr. Manager. We take Biscayne Park to heart, and unfortunately, post-COVID-19 has been just terrible in the workforce field. Labor has gotten just horrendous, where we would have labor stacked probably one backup to each employee. Now we have to have 2 and 3 if they show up. 2 is the fuel has, based in Dade County, has gone, and overall, the CPI is somewhere around 2.3%, 10.3%. And overall, it's just that everything, our dumpsters, our containers now that we have to buy. I used to pay for a 1-yard container. It was $500, 493, I think it was. It's $1,000 today. It's not one thing. My truck, when we have these Mack trucks, Next Train, by the way, we're not the only ones. It's Waste Management, it's Waste Connections, it's Dade County. I live in Dade County and they service my house in Miami Lakes. And the truck breaks and they don't come and pick the garbage up. So I called 311. I said, guys, do you want me to send my own truck? It's just everything has bombed us. And it's not, we appreciate what this mayor and council and management does. We appreciate your account. Just like Village of Key Biscayne, and the other cities I do, the facilities, I don't do the residential part of it. But we do take a lot of pride in our work. And we want you to know, we're not just, this is not a whim. This is not, it has just been every single aspect and attribute that contributes to the transportation industry. Really, we're in the transportation industry. Trucks, tires, gas, oil, mechanics, and employees. So that's why we come to you. And we basically accepted and said, okay, that'll work. If that works good for the municipality, that would be work good for us. We're going to try to work with you based on the fuel and based on the CPI. I totally feel very confident that we're in line with everything that we've done. And we certainly would appreciate that because we do need it. I mean, we're not gonna not pick you up, or I'm not gonna be what I told you the day that we did this, that I would let you down. We're not gonna do that. That's not the way we operate. However, it's gotten to the point where post COVID-19, if you're in business and you have fixed costs and fixed income, you need to take consideration. And it's sort of like breaking the olive branch, saying, listen, these guys, we know this is real. This isn't an artificial thing. Additionally, per our contract, we can only come to you once a year. That's it. And additionally, Dade County is going to hit us in October for a disposal increase. So, I mean, it's a triad of everything. Being a business owner and a businessman that I am, and at the same time maintaining transparencies and thanking my municipalities and thanking my mayors and my commissioners that I work with every day to try to do a good job. And B, we want to stand above the better. We don't want to be compared to Waste Management. We don't want to be compared to Dade County. They don't do the things we do at all. It's apples and grapes. So I mean, yes, we're asking and we're coming to you and in this form and saying, if you guys can work with this, we appreciate your account. I can tell you that I was in the city of Biscayne Park this week. I did a survey of every block, and the cities looks pretty good. I mean, never going to be perfect because nobody's perfect. Okay, but in the service industry, remember, when it comes to solid waste and bulk waste, people America, we're the biggest waste generators in the whole world. And especially in the vegetation in Biscayne Park, because you got a canopy, and the people just want it to go away. They think it just goes away. Well, there's a lot of work that goes into it, and assuring and maintaining transparencies and maintaining the city clean. I'm sure you can go up and down the blocks and see That it's something that's, we've moved you a notch, maybe go to another notch now. We want to continue to be part of the community and be part of Biscayne Park. We participate with you. Yes, we're requesting consideration of some sort.
Jenny, may I respond to him, please? Willie, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
First of all, we appreciate you coming to talk to us. And look, I can speak for myself, and I'm sure most of the people here would agree with me. The level of service that we're getting from your company is markedly better than what we were getting before.
Thank you.
Granted, the
Commissioner.
bar was rather low, but you did, you did vault over it. So we do appreciate that. And look, we're in the middle of a budget process here ourselves, so we fully appreciate what's happening. And some of us run companies. We have someone here who owns his own company, and two of us who work for some other people. And we know we're feeling it firsthand. I'm in charge of hiring at my company. Trust me, I know. So we appreciate the position you're in.
Yeah. Thank you, Commissioner.
Now, there are other ways that you can maintain profitability on an account other than getting more money. So may I ask him a direct question like that, Mario? Okay, sometimes I'm afraid I'm going to like step out of bound.
No, you can ask whatever you want.
So look, you can change the level of service, and that can impact how much money you spend on our account. And we've already acquiesced to 2 requests to change levels of service. One was a scheduling change immediately when you guys started working for us. And the other is that you use the crane, the claw, what it is, an awful lot. And I know that saves you money because it's one guy in a truck as opposed to guys walking around picking stuff up. I see it happen, so I know it's happening, and Mario's okay with it. And I think generally that seems to be working okay. There's some damage, and I hear you fix it. So, it's all net good. Are there other ways that you could maintain profitability on our account without dramatically changing the service that you provide to us that would not involve us paying you more?
Commissioner, that's a structural question because of the fact that we are very competitive. The industry is a commodity, and when it comes to garbage and trash and recycling and everything, there's a lot of fixed costs, and these fixed costs are structured. Whether you're still going to have the same cost whether you do a good job or a bad job. And to address your question, we will never do a bad job. We're always going to try to do better. However, it's, with the increases we've digested and we've ate it all the way through. We ate the labor situation all the way through. And, we have to, but only once a year we can come and talk to you and per contract and say, these are our issues and our concerns, and this is where we need to be and get to some ground that acceptable to the mayor and commission and to us that we would say, okay, we'll just have to live with that. To answer your question, there's not much less we can do because Biscayne Park generates a lot of trash, vegetation. It is a canopy. It is, now we're going into hurricane season and people are trimming their trees and there's a lot, our costs go up when these little tropical storms come through, they drop water and we pay by weight, and water is 8 pounds per gallon. So the material gets wet. It's got to go to the dump. Everything's on a scale. Everything's weighed and so to answer your straight.
So it sounds like there may not be. Are you properly charging when you pick up oversized piles, or are you just grabbing some while you're here just to get it out of the way?
A lot of times we just want to do a good job and we just grab it and keep the city clean and do you guys good. And
I know there is a provision there for how you charge.
Keep peace in the Middle East.
I understand, and we appreciate that. because I don't like walking around and seeing the giant piles. Okay, so I'm going to ask you, so the answer is, look, I had to ask. I'm just trying to figure out a way.
That's okay.
to help-
That's
To help
fine.
you out and while we're looking at a budget that's really tight as well. So I'm going to ask you straight up, if we say no tonight and this is done until next summer, are you going to walk from our contract?
I can't answer that question. I'm not the one that would make that decision. I can clearly tell you that I would not put anybody in harm's way, especially a municipality. And, I do the Dade County School Board. I do Dade County, I do a lot of big contracts that aren't so much a small city. So the small city requires a lot of special attention. I would not say that openly. And I would not be the person to make that final
It's not
decision.
your call. Okay.
Right, it
Mario,
wouldn't be, I would be part of it, but it won't be
Understood.
boom, drop.
Okay,
I wouldn't do
so-
that to you.
Okay, so I'm
folks.
still trying to figure out a way to try to figure out a sweet spot here.
Now,
Mario,
how will we work it through? It would be if
None
if
of,
we
look, none of
needed
us want
extra-
that to happen. None of us want it to
No,
happen.
we don't
but
wanna
it's
be
being
there.
said
That's
out
not
loud,
where we
so I
wanna
just want
be.
to ask you straight up.
We want
Mario,
you
is there
happy,
a
we
way?
want to be happy.
Understood. We all want to be happy. Mario, is there a way to help them with fuel, given the fact that we've already set the solid waste fee? If we said, let's help them with one aspect of this without impacting the franchise fee. If we were to say, let's address maybe just the fuel situation and say, we'll do it through the end of this contract year through, I don't know, it ends July, I think, I'm not certain. And we'll do the quarterly thing. I'm thinking out loud here, guys. So someone jump in and help me out. Is there a way to do that without impacting the franchise fee? Because we've set the fee now.
Then you're taking the money out of the village budget.
That's why I'm asking Mario if there's any
I
other way.
mean, It's.
You would
it's
have
not
to-
for the village to subsidize the garbage collection.
I understand that. I'm asking Mario if there's any other way.
My question is this, if we help this company now,
Can Mario answer the question?
I'm
please?
sorry.
Get an answer to that question first.
Yeah, so we would have to pay for the increase one way or another. And so the commission's already stated that we're not increasing the rates for the residents.
Right.
So you can, in my opinion, the easiest accounting method would be to waive the franchise fee, simply because they send us an invoice, we pay it, we send them an invoice, they pay it.
Right.
Well, we just wouldn't send them the invoice.
Do we have to waive
Another-
the entire thing, or could we agree to waive part of it to help adjust for fuel? Guys, I'm just thinking out loud here.
Yeah, so
Is it an all or nothing proposition with the franchise fee, or can it be a portion of it? Can we say reduce it, waive some
That's
part of it?
I mean, that's something that we can definitely talk and I'm sure
Whatever we want.
Willie
Valerie
can
said.
get the final approval, whether to tie the franchise fee to the fuel cost. So on a quarterly basis, you can kind of look to see how that would work. I'm sure he would need to get approval for that, but that's something that could be
I'm sorry,
possible.
say that again. I kind of like the sound of what you just said. You're saying on a quarterly basis, if we look at the fuel, at the same time, we could look at the franchise fee and figure out if they have to get tied together somehow.
Right. I mean, that is, at least that's how I understand what you were trying to say.
Yeah. So
So I'm sure that's something that we can propose to them and they can do
What you're
that.
saying is we don't have to agree for 1 year, just review it on a quarterly basis.
And we could tie it to he's saying we could tie it to the franchise fee on a quarterly basis as well. How would that impact for us for budgeting purposes if the franchise?
As I mentioned back in June, okay, and I want to clarify this. As I mentioned in June, because of the fiscal year that we have, the increase and everything that the position that we are financially, whether we waive the franchise fee for the whole year or we do it on a quarterly basis, it is not impacting our budget. We are good. Earlier this week, I just sent you all the revised budget with some of the changes and even changes that staff is recommending and stuff like that. We kept a 9.5 millage, and we still have $10,000 left over or 11,000 left over that we can move towards. So again, the waiving the whole year or the quarterly, it's not going to impact the budget where suddenly we're cutting services somewhere else just to be able to afford this. That's not the case. It's a recommended, when I recommended, we did that because this year financially, we are in a very good position and we can do that. But yes, we can Willie can take that back and I can have a conversation with the company owner. If they're okay with doing that on a quarterly basis and we can write that in for the ordinance, then that's fine.
Let me,
I just sort of pulled that out of my head.
I don't,
for a
yeah,
second,
yeah,
so-
I know where you pulled it. I know where you, exactly where you pulled it out of.
So I'm just trying to come up with something.
Listen, I just wanted to ask Willie a quick question about revenues. Willie,
sir.
what, can you share with us, I don't know if you have that data, how much revenue, outside revenue have you collected in this village?
I'm sorry, say it again,
How
Commissioner.
much outside revenue you've collected in this village? Do you have that information as
What-
far as
what do you-
private,
what do you-
private pickups from residents?
I don't have, I don't have that information. It's not a big number, I could tell you that.
Okay, so
it's-
when you say it's not a big number,
It's a number, but I don't know what it is. I don't have that report.
it can,
That would be a handy thing to know, wouldn't it? And
Just-
it
just
also.
Huh?
Just so you
That
know,
would be a
nobody
handy
wants
thing
to
to
pay
know, and also
anything.
how much
So-
they're not charging for.
And that's
Right.
another, that's another issue, right? That they've been nice enough to pick up, bigger piles and while I'm certainly appreciative, they're leaving money on the table.
Exactly, that's my
Okay.
point. So there's.
And to be fair, we're talking about our budget and, we're presenting a 9.5 millage budget. But if we had an additional $100,000, that could drop our budget to what, 9.3, 9.2, right?
Or we could get more
so
stuff
it's-
done or save money.
So it is impacting our budget. But it would be interesting to know how much money they've generated outside of the scope. And, I have no way of determining how much money they're leaving on the table because they've
That's the thing.
decided to pick up bigger bulks on their own. No one's asked them. I mean, that I know of, no one's asked them to do that. And I appreciate it because it makes the village nicer and cleaner.
Commissioner, let me, as a point of clarification, I don't mean to interrupt you. What I want to do tell you is that, a lot of times when it comes to customer service and public relations with municipalities and residences, they have a tendency to say, well, the pile's not 20 yards, it's only 9. And so rather than get into that confrontation and create an issue for the company and the image and maintain transparency, 99% of the time, we will take care of the customer and lean the customer's way, 99.9. Now, I'm going to tell you once again, I don't have that. I wish I had the report in front of me. I don't know it. But I can tell you it's not this number. And everything we do extra, by the time you pay for the cost of the fuel, the truck, the trip, the dump, the man, the labor, it's not a moneymaker.
That makes sense, actually. When you say it that way.
So it's basically a customer service
You
to
still have
the
to get the
city.
truck here. You have to get the truck here and the guys here anyway.
Right. So it has to have a supervisor go out and take a picture.
And also, as
Has
a
to have,
point of.
take 2 or 3 trips. But anyway,
And-
bottom
and
line
also
is,
the point. More often than time, residents do not put out 2 cubic yards. And so when we do send out code, it now becomes a process and that process might take several weeks.
Yeah.
And so that became an issue with Waste Pro. So Great Waste from the beginning has said, you know what, we want the village to look better. And so they've been doing, I've always said, you tell us where the big pile is, we'll send code out and we'll get them written up. But then you have the complaints of that pile's been there for 3 weeks. And for them, they were like, our guy's there. We can do this. It's not going to be that much. So, they've tried to give that balancing
And I
act.
appreciate it, but when they're coming to us, asking us for money, that we have to ask these questions, right?
Right.
You're leaving money on the table, perhaps, right? We know that. And how much money you're generating outside of the scope of our agreement. Those are just legit questions that we should get answers to.
One of my biggest concerns is that if we help them out, what are they going to do when the costs and everything goes down? How is the village going to benefit from it? Are they going to just,
there's a cap, Commissioner. There's a cap established, a floor, that if it goes below that floor, then that adjustment is adjusted. And as the manager had said, it would be on a quarterly basis evaluated. So it's not like just a blank check to say, hey, you're coming in for your fuel increase in whatever CPI, however it finishes out, is a blank check. It's going to be checked against the floor on the way down, which I don't expect fuel to go back to where it was. I mean, I just don't see it. I mean, we've been paying $5 and $4. It's down right now, but it's still diesel's still at $4.50 a gallon.
Right.
I
When
mean,
you- when you
it-
did
it-
the- Go ahead.
go ahead.
Sorry. Go ahead. No,
Go
you
ahead.
finish your thought. Sorry. My question is, when you negotiated the contract with us, didn't you think into the future that possibly the fuel cost can go up? Did you consider that?
Never in our wildest dream at post COVID-19 thought what happened to our industry, our metal, our fuel, our tires, our labor. We never in our wildest dreams thought that we would be impacted the way we were impacted. And it's not a great waste issue.
No.
This is a global national waste management issue. They got 37,000 employees. This is a global waste connections problem. The matter of fact, they're asking ideas from people like us on this call right now. How can they do a better job? Because they're just besides themselves also. And it's not because it's been a trickle down effect is what it's been. Because the person that sells the office supply now has to pay the truck fuel at $4 or $5 a gallon. He needs to mark up his office supplies. So it's the office supplies. It's this. It's a trickle down effect. It's just amazing. When I look at the cost of some of the stuff we're paying, and we can't pass that through. We got to eat it. And it goes into financing, and it goes into the pro forma, it goes into our FASB rules.
We get it because we're all experiencing it.
Yeah.
I'm going to run to the restroom. I'm going to drop a bomb on you guys before I go because I don't want to be here for the explosion. The other option is, would be to tell them to, I just realized what I said. I didn't mean to just come out like that. I'm sorry. Good Lord. Can we strike that from record, Jenny? The other option would be to tell them to pick up trash and recycling or trash 1 day a week instead of 2 for a while. I wouldn't mind having trucks.
Yeah, I don't know that they'd be able to.
I don't know that that's going to
complete it.
happen.
Yeah, I don't know that they can do a full pickup in a day.
No.
Not here.
No, there's got too much.
So
Too
Mario,
much
what, okay, listen, I think we need to move on. We're beating a dead horse at this point with the same thing. I think for me, I need to understand better what happens with fuel, the fuel cost. And if it drops, I need to understand that process better because right now I really don't get it. So
on a quarterly basis, we would look at where the diesel price is.
Okay.
If it's above 372, then the contractor would get the fuel surcharge as part of their invoicing for 3 months. If it is below the 372, then they would not be entitled to that surcharge.
And is that averaging over the time, or is that on that particular day of the quarter?
We would look at what the fuel cost is for those 3 months. So it's an average of those.
So it'd be average for the 3 months.
Correct.
So at the end of the month, you would look at the average, and if it's below for 3 months. If it's below 372, they wouldn't be entitled to the fuel surcharge. If it's above 372, then they are entitled to the surcharge.
Correct.
What was their initial ask, you said?
It was like 19 point something, 20%, something like that.
All right, I have enough.
We're not, would that be acceptable, Mr. Hernandez?
I'm sorry,
Of doing it?
Madam Mayor.
That's already what we've agreed to.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
Yes,
No, it's
yes,
okay.
ma'am. Yes, Madam Mayor. Yes.
So I guess the question for the commission, is there a consensus to move the item forward as an ordinance, or is there no consensus and I guess the item would die today?
And can we do just a verbal vote?
I think that's what they just want to hear each of our opinions sort of. Want me to start down here?
So Valerie, correct me if I'm wrong, and I want to make sure that everybody understands what the vote is. The vote is a yes to defer and bring back as a first reading ordinance. A no means the item dies today. Okay?
And the ordinance is for the quarterly
The ordinance,
That was proposed.
quarterly evaluation for 1 year based on the price of diesel gas.
And the franchise fee as part of that.
Right.
Yeah.
right, because that's how we would. pay for it.
Judy, everything that's in front of us, bring it back as an ordinance. The answer is basically yes, but not tonight. Bring it back as an ordinance so we can yes it.
Right, if we get, if the commission says, let's move forward, then I would work with Great Waste to see if we tie the franchise fee and the fuel charge together. So it's looked at at a quarterly basis.
Instead of waiving for the entire fiscal year, it would be adjusted correspondingly with surcharge.
Okay, last question. So this would be for 1 year, correct?
Correct.
Would it be for 1 year or through the end of this contract year?
No, it's for the,
Fiscal year.
no,
The franchise fee?
so it would be for fiscal year 23.
Okay, be through next September.
Correct.
So it would start October 1.
Yes.
So we can assume that going into year 2, this is still going to be an issue. Because the fuel ain't gonna come down below 372.
Well, it has come
It's
down.
been coming down kind of
Come
rapidly
down
there for a minute.
Not diesel. Diesel is crazy.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
Mario sent us
next
that
year would
chart, and
be-
it came down kind of significantly in the past 6 weeks or so.
Next
But-
year, there's different ways to tackle that. If the item were to stay the way it is, then we would talk about whether there's, instead of the franchise fee, if there's a rate increase that's passed on to the resident, or if the commission wishes to continue the way that they're doing.
Can we raise the rate, the gas price from 372?
You can all make whatever
Next
number.
on the
Yeah,
next,
you can all make that number whatever
that
if they
now.
agree to it. If
because I mean, 372 is kind of low for diesel.
We could change it now. We could propose whatever we want to.
yeah, that was the price.
When they
it was
first came.
July.
Right.
Well, it was a little bit lower than that, July of 21.
What is it now? Do you know?
I think it's like 4 something, 5.
I thought it was below 5. You sent us a.
You know,
chart.
at one point it was like $6.
Yeah, but now where's that chart can you pop that up on the screen? Or just tell me where it is? Here? No.
Look, it says here, current average in Florida is 3.624 up to 4.805.
Diesel?
Yeah, diesel. No, I'm sorry. No, that's gas. Sorry. I put diesel.
Backup, no?
Yeah.
For the June.
Yeah, but we're doing the entire state.
Yeah, but you can't buy it in the entire.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Actually, it's
it's the
535.
backup.
It's 535 a gallon in Florida.
It's the backup for the June item, which is where you can find the chart. And at the time for the June item,
Is this right now? Is this current? I like the idea of raising it.
Okay, so I'm gonna make sure, I'm the one who said it, and I'm not, or Mario and I batted this around, but I'm gonna make sure I understand what you said about the franchise fee. So if we do it quarterly and the franchise fee adjusts, it's not an all or nothing on the franchise fee. It adjusts proportionally to the rate of the fuel.
correct, although for budgeting purposes, we consider it as the
All or
whole year
nothing.
because we have to plan for the
Okay,
worst case
So-
scenario.
So we would budget for no franchise fee, but we would write it such that they adjust proportionally. Is that
Correct.
am I understanding that, Valerie?
Yes.
And then we just have to decide on what a dollar amount would be, and they're asking for 372, and we're looking at fuel right now. Is it, what did it say, Art? 495?
Yes.
495?
Yeah.
What if we kind of struck a middle ground in there somewhere?
$4.
So,
Yeah, I like that idea. Raise it to 4.
Or 4.25? Well, no, because I'm just.
495.
Do I hear? Well, no, because 3.72 minus 5.95 equals, divided by 2 equals plus 3.72 equals, I screwed that all up. What would the middle ground be? 595. Come on, someone here, help me, Sean. Oh, I'm sorry, 495. 495 plus 372 divided by 2. 433. What if we said 4.25?
Do it. Say it. You said it.
Mario, what think you?
I think that's a
I
good
would,
compromise.
I would propose it to Great Waste and see if they're okay with that and then bring it back.
What do you think?
Silly?
I don't know.
I get it.
Listen,
You know,
at
what,
the
I
end
don't,
of-
you know, listen, we want to work with you. I got to talk to Carlo. I can't project, whether it's 372 or $4, I don't know that's going to make or break anybody.
Yeah.
But bottom line is that we don't see it coming down like we thought we would.
No,
Exactly.
that's
Me
exactly
neither.
what I'm. My question is this, if this is just to defer it so it can be into an ordinance and you can have all this information and negotiation put into the ordinance part, right? Okay, so I'm willing to defer this into what I made the motion to defer it to him. I still can't support this. So, but it looks like we have consent here that they want to move it forward.
We have consensus. No, we haven't voted yet.
Thank you.
You can hear people talking the way you consent.
Why don't we
Okay, let's vote and see if we, okay.
start the
you're right,
vote, yes or no?
Democratic way.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Kenny, you're right. I mean, Commissioner Kazan.
Okay. Having talked all of this stuff through, I personally would be happier. I would personally rather say no now and ask us to punt it downfield and pick up the topic again in January and see how the world looks.
They can't do that.
Okay.
They can't
I
do
would
that
vote
by
yes.
contract.
We go to vote.
Excuse me.
Hello?
I would vote yes.
What, for the deferred? Yes.
Yes.
No, vote.
No, Dan, I think you meant no.
You're confusing me, Madam Mayor. What are you saying? Yes, I have to defer it.
Yes.
That's what I made the motion. No, not accordingly. I'm moving this forward to an ordinance. What they said this, what you said to me, this is gonna happen. If we defer this, this goes to an ordinance, right? And then you can have the negotiation.
Dan, if you're against it, your vote is no. If your
Exactly.
vote is yes.
My answer is no.
Okay.
There you go.
Yes.
Yes.
There you go.
Okay.
Sure.
But I would like to see it probably at $4. If we're
Okay, but you guys said yes, so you got this, and you're tying it quarterly like we decided.
Right, like we discussed, right. Okay.
Dan wants.
Mr. Hernandez, you didn't know you were coming to a bargain basement.
Hey, listen, I love you guys. You're just like me. It's not like I don't understand. It's just that what we've all gone through, including each and every one of you folks. Okay.
Thank you for your patience and thank us for our patience. okay?
Yeah, no, you guys do a good job, and I do want, there's, one thing, I do want Madam Mayor and Commissioner, I do want you guys to know is that we do take our service to heart, and we're not going to leave you high and dry no matter what happens, years to come, and hopefully we can build a great relationship that, goes both ways. I mean, you want to keep your vendors alive and keep them healthy so that they can continue to do a good job for you. I mean, and that's for everything that goes across the board. My
That's
lawn
true.
man, he says, Willie, I got to raise you $10 to cut your grass.
Thank you, Willie. Thank you.
Willie, I really appreciate your service. I was one of those people who Waste Pro only picked up once a month. So we appreciate you.
Okay,
Mayor,
is this item we voted on? Everything is finished? we will go to resolution 2022-39. Valerie?
A resolution of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, awarding request for proposal number 2022-005 to CAP Government Services, Inc. for building and planning services, authorizing the village manager to negotiate and enter into an agreement with CAP Government, Inc., authorizing the village manager to execute an agreement substantially the form attached here to as Exhibit A, and expend budgeted funds on behalf of the village and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. I'd like a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Commissioner Hammelberg made a motion, and do we have a second?
In her motion.
Okay, Commissioner Gonzalez seconded it. Is there any discussion?
I'd like to hear from the manager on this one.
Thank you. Yes, we put out an RFP for the building and planning services. These are the services where the village uses to have plan reviews for the permits, and then the inspection of the permits of the work that's being done or anything like that. In addition, we also have the ability to use the companies like our incumbent right now for plan review. So prior to that, going to the permit fee section. Biscayne Park, however, does it differently, in which that aspect is done by the planning board. So typically what is used for planning services are very minor in overall scope. What we've currently used the incumbent for, which is part of this RFP, is to be able to do comp plan updates, which has to be done as required by the state. I think it's like every 5 to 7 years. Any other type of services that we have, an example would be the McMansion and things like that. And so the rec center and other items like that. We've also asked in the past to see if there is any civil engineering. So we asked for certain hours or classifications for the company to be able to do everything that the incumbent is able to do now. Unfortunately, when we went out to an RFP, the incumbent did not wish to continue the services, and we only had one bidder. The one bidder is CAP Government. There's only 2 companies that I know of in Florida that does all of this work, and it's CAP Government, and they're now called Safe Built, but it's Calvin Giordano's and as we know them. And so CAP Government came in, they provided their initial revenue split that they proposed was a 90%, 10%, 10% for the village, 90% for CAP Government. Looking at the budget and what that would mean once the cone of silence was lifted, I reached out to the company. We started talking. Paul was with me during the conversations, and they've agreed that for the first year that they were going to go to a 75-25 split, which is more in line with where we are and where Safe Built was trying to get to for the first year. Then for the remaining years, the commission will either, with talking to CAP Government, will either reaffirm or change that revenue split. And there's several things that could impact that, and those are, although related conversations and like what we've initially talked about many months ago with regards to fees and where they are for permit fees and stuff like that. So all of that would come back next year for the commission to decide whether to keep it or to move forward with a difference in revenue split. In the backup, you'll see that we had 3 individuals who scored the proposal, just to be consistent. Out of a possible 300 points, CAP Government received 233. The 3 evaluators was the assistant city manager for the city of Aventura, the assistant town manager and chief financial officer for the town of Surfside, and the building official for the village of Key Biscayne. And so the revenue split, again, just to summarize, went from a 90-10. They've agreed to go to a 75-25. We do have listed various types of work that we could use on an as-needed basis, and they have an hourly rate. To get to the 75-25, because that's a big difference, they did ask that the village waive a requirement that was within the RFP, which was for the building official. We had it where they had to be not only a building official, but also a registered architect or civil engineer. And so it's not required that you have one of those to become a building official. And so we are recommending that we waive that so that the building official, that helps them lower their overhead on that so that they can meet that 75-25. They're also providing a service. Inspections are done on particular days depending on what it is. So for example, electrical will be like Monday and Wednesday. The additional service that they're willing to provide is that if someone wants to have an electrical inspection on Tuesday or Friday or Thursday, any day that's not that assigned day, there is an hourly rate already for what the inspection would cost. The resident or the permittee can pay for that non-assigned day inspection, and they would be they would receive that total amount. There's no revenue split when it comes to that extra service. And so that is what's being presented to the commission today.
Oh, if I understand this, okay, so the first year is going to be the 75-25. And then, right?
Correct.
Okay, and then the second year, it will go up to 90-10.
Second year, it comes back to the commission.
Back to the commission, yes. And with this, it's basically outsourcing. They do all the work and all that. I like the idea that if we have the permitting on Monday for electrical, that's the only day they do it. And if they do it any other time, they keep the cost. So it doesn't come to us. So I don't have a problem with that. If a resident can't do the electrical on a Monday, they have to be willing to pay that. So.
Right, but keep in mind, Dan, when they do that, we get nothing, but we still have the expenses of running that permit through our staff, and we still incur the expenses of
I
processing.
thought they
all.
do all the staffing.
No, we still have a department here and an organization to run. So when that happens, yes, they're going to charge more and the resident's going to pay it, but we don't get anything. I'm not saying I disagree with this. I'm just making sure you're clear on this, that's how we pay for the building department. And every time that happens, we lose revenue. Right.
And just to introduce, we do have Mr. Carlos Del Pino here representing CAP government.
I look at two different things. Number one, I love that there's an additional service for people who want to pay for, because there have been times that I know Shelley didn't show and we had a couple of weeks that people couldn't get permits. And I think some of them would have preferred. So I really like that. But I also want to go back to the fact that we have not raised the rates of our permit fees for 6 years. Everything else around us has gone up in 6 years, housing. And I mean, I think it's crazy. And I mean, I just pulled permits for my solar, and if it costs me another $25 or $50 or $100, it would not be a make or break situation. And for people who are doing hundreds of thousands of dollars of work, I mean, we have a $50 permit fee for this. And, you know, I just think we're way, way, way low, and we need to come around in our pricing to make it feasible for us. Right now, I understand from Mario that they've increased our rates and we are subsidizing some of these building things, and we should not be doing that. If people need a service and they're paying for it, they should pay for the whole amount, not us.
Can I ask a couple of questions real quickly? So the 75-25 is based on our current permit fee schedule.
No, currently the village pays 65-35 because the commission never voted on increasing the fees.
Right, but the 75-25 that they're proposing is based on.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
The
yes.
current fee schedule.
Correct.
Okay, so that wouldn't change. So in other words, then a year from the anniversary date of this is when we would talk again about the split, and at that point, the fees. Do we have the opportunity to say yes to 75-25 now, but we want to look at the fee schedule sooner rather than later, to Judy's point, and if we mutually agreed with this gentleman's company to adjust it then? Let's say in January, we said, new fee schedule, here's what we agree on, and because of that, we're going to change the split.
The fee schedule is completely a completely separate item than the contract, right? It's related because based on the fees is what generates the revenue, and that's what's used to pay the contract. However, the commission can vote on the fee schedule at any point. It's actually best practice to do it either yearly or every other year, to make sure that you're maintaining with whatever the cost is for doing business.
But could we, I think I heard the answer there. Could we agree to the 75-25 now, but not wait a year to do the fee schedule? And then let's say we did it in January and we said new fee schedule, could we then adjust the split then if the numbers worked out for everybody? Or do we have to wait to do a new fee schedule? Do we have to
we
wait
can
to
do
adjust the
we can
split
do the fee schedule
anytime?
The
Split only
split
usually?
would be at the end of the year.
Yeah, but
We couldn't do it before?
But Mac, the point is that even if you did it, right, and you change and you raise the rates, that would just generate more revenue for that department, right? Which in theory, we can't use anyway because it's for that department, blah, blah, blah. I get it.
We're at a deficit in that.
No, we're not any longer in a deficit. We're not in a deficit anymore. We're kind of
We
breaking.
still
even.
are.
Oh, we still are.
Yeah.
So we're carrying money
We cut it
over.
in half, but
Oh, okay. So what are we from 30 to 15?
42 to like 26.
26. Okay.
So that's what I'm saying. We might say yes to this and
Okay.
get going on September 1.
So
And
then,
then do it sooner, and it gives us a minute to get the train out of the station, and then we can sit and look at numbers and figure
Yeah.
out what makes sense.
but we can continue with that deal and we're not
Until
going
we
to, at
get
least
it.
we're not going to be at a deficit.
Exactly.
That's fine. Yeah, I think.
I'd rather do it sooner rather than
we can
later.
do
It makes
whenever
sense of
we
it.
want.
I don't disagree with what Judy said, and not that I want to increase fees to anybody, but we do need to look at that and see if they make
We can do
sense.
that whenever.
Because we looked at it once before and said.
I
this
don't
thing
want to
is
wait
so
till
wacky.
January. I just think we're losing 3 months of time, 4 months of time.
Okay, so that was my one question. Could we do that? When, I don't know who this is a question. I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name. I'm sorry, that was
Carlos.
Carlos. I'm sorry, Mac. I'm going to see if I can repeat this. We would not have someone with the title building official. Instead, we'd have an architect or an engineer who would serve that role. Is that correct?
No. We have
The other way around, the other way around.
Other
Okay.
way around.
So how does that impact what services we get from them? For example, can that person still issue a stop work order for us?
Yes.
Okay, that person can come in
It
here,
doesn't-
shut
it
down
doesn't
jobs
affect-
and do all the hard stuff that we need someone to come in and put the hammer down.
Carlos, can you go to the
And thank you very much for coming.
Good evening, everyone. I don't know if this is.
Just take it out.
Okay.
It's
Yeah,
easier.
good evening. I was about to explain that the Florida Building Code and Florida statutes require that you have a building official license assigned to the building department, and not necessarily a registered architect and professional engineer. So what the code requires and what the law requires is the building official, and he is able to issue stop work orders, as you were saying, issue permits, issue temporary certificate of occupancy, and everything else.
What can they not do that we're currently getting from the person with the title that we have now?
They'd be able to do everything the same.
Everything. So we don't lose any level of service
No.
by this happening. Okay,
No.
very good.
Not at all.
Okay. We're like the Thanksgiving dinner that you wish you hadn't gone on a date with.
Can you turn on your mic, sir? Can you turn on your mic, sir?
Oh, I paid your play. No, be quiet. I want to thank you for negotiating, and city manager for doing it, because originally I couldn't support a 90-10. But since you got this down to 75, 25, I can definitely support it. And I do agree with Commissioner Judy that we need to look at our fees and raise our permits higher. I mean, that's how business works, and Government's like a business. So anyway, yeah, I can support that.
Are there any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Guys, can we commit to, related topic, can we commit to when we would want Mario to bring this back to us so we can start that? It's not going to be a one conversation kind of a thing. It's going to be, a couple of meetings before and the sooner we get started, the sooner we'll get to where we want to be.
I'd say once budget is over, I think we're up to our ears until budget is over.
Okay.
Budget is over, I believe, the end of September.
This September,
So
maybe in October, we
and
could take our first
actually,
conversation.
Shelley did a lot of that work for us. She did a bunch of stuff and we have it from a few months back and we should be able to dig it up and do some comparison looks.
If we could start that conversation in October, I'd be very happy. We tend to forget that had good intentions.
No problem.
We don't forget for long. Mario gets back at us.
We'll.
You're right.
back
Since he
up.
got here, we're forgetting
When are
less.
you going away? Commissioner
Don't
Kennedy,
do it while I'm gone.
when are you going away?
I'm not telling you.
Okay. Resolution 2022-40. Valerie.
A resolution of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, approving the selection and appointment of members to the Parks and Parkway Advisory Board, providing for severability and providing for an effective date.
Okay, can we?
May I jump on this since I recruited these folks to be on the
Can
board?
we have a motion?
That's what I'm going to make a motion. So I'd like to make a motion to
Okay.
appoint Marissa Gruen and Juan DiPaolo both to the Parks and Parkways Board.
And I will second that.
And
The motion is made by Commissioner Kennedy and it's seconded by Commissioner Hammelberg. Is there any discussion?
no, I just want to point out that Juan was one of our winners of the Sanctuary Award for the beautiful garden that he has on the corner of 119th and 8th. Everyone raves about his garden on the corner there. And Marissa's new to the village and it's wonderful to have new, young, energetic people joining boards here. So I thank them both for joining the
I'm
board.
sure they'll be fine. Is there any other discussion?
Just one point of clarification from a comment. There still is one member on the board. So if the commission appoints these two members, the board would be able to meet with quorum because they would have 3 out of 5 possible members. Although getting 2 more members to fill out the board would be a big help.
I'm
Okay,
sorry, I
all in-
misspoke a little bit. He is out of town though for a while. That's why they're not.
He'll be back in a week or two.
Oh, he is? Excellent. Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
It passes. They're on the board. Discussion, old business.
Madam Mayor, thank you. Unfortunately, Giano and Alex, who have been spearheading the Land Development Code update with regards or what's commonly known as McMansions, were not able to be here today. However, they did send their colleague Sylvia to kind of just walk through briefly what the recommendation is and to answer any questions that the commission may have with regards to their recommendations. This is just a discussion item, just to make sure that we're on the right track. From here, we would go back to the planning where they would have to take it for a vote, and then whatever that direction would come back to the commission for an ordinance. Yeah, you can just take it off the, no, it's on. Just take it off the stand if you want. And yep. Thank you so much for coming. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. As the manager said, my name is Sylvia Vargas and I'm a principal planner with Calvin Giordano and Associates. And I thank you for the opportunity to represent my colleagues. I'm probably not going to be as articulate on the subject as they would be, but I'll do my best. I think I understand the issue if I'm not as familiar with the details as they are. And I understand that this has also been going on. This process has been going on for a little while, and there has been a lot of public process, including workshop and presentation to the planning board and to this commission as well. And what you have in front of you reflects the recommendations of the planning board after their review on May 17 of this year. And what what this reflects then is a set of new definitions in chapter 2 that you see um, in underline. You see also some changes to chapter 10, which is the design and improvement standards chapter, and the changes there consist both of bringing some material that originally was in section 17.8, which is the planning and zoning fee schedule. And it's material that when I looked at it as a sort of newcomer to the process, I thought, why was that there? So it is now moved from the schedule into the design and improvement standards chapter, which makes a whole lot of sense. But there are no changes to that material. It's just a reorganization. And then in addition to that, there is a series of changes which reflect the approach of my colleagues to helping address the issue of oversized dwellings. There are some graphics that have been added there for clarity, which you can see on pages 4 of 13, 5, 6, and 7 of 13, as well as later in the chapter, starting page 10 and then also 11, and some language that was added as section 10.3.3, and that's basically the core set of new standards regarding orientation, placement, frontages, massing, articulation, and opening location for new residential dwelling units. So these are not necessarily new to you. There's been only some calibration, the way that I understand it from the planning board, with respect to the step backs, which is the mechanism for the second story to be pulled back. And that accomplishes a couple of things. One is to reduce the overall massing of the building. And the second one is to help protect the privacy of neighbors at the second story. So I'm going to leave it at that, and I'll try to answer your questions the best that I can. I'm not sure, how much I'm going to be able to get into the minutia of the process, but I'll do my best.
Thank you, Sylvia. And just to remind the commission, we originally had a workshop over the weekends several months ago in which several members of the community came out, spoke. After that, it went to planning and zoning. They provided some feedback, and I believe there was another discussion that the commission had as well. And so this is now already incorporating both what the commission and the planning board has kind of guided. We wanted to bring it back here to the commission to make sure we're right on the right track. And so we'll take whatever comments or suggestions here, incorporate that, take it to planning for an actual vote before it comes back to the commission for a vote. So we're asking more for general direction. Is this where we want to go? Or is this where the commission wants to go? Is there anything in particular that we are just really off base on and you guys want to clarify? It's more of that type of discussion because you'll get this again 2 more times, and the community has 3 more times to be able to comment on it as well.
FYI, Gage is back in Zoom if we need him for anything. Gage is our planning and zoning
Yeah.
chair.
My only concern on what I've seen is it says 2 stories height, but it still doesn't give what that height is.
Thank
We need to deal with what an average height is. And not just height of the building. What if somebody decides they're gonna raise their land 20 feet up and make a big mound of dirt? And then they put their 2-story 12-foot high ceilings on top of that, so we've,
Would help with flooding. No, I'm playing.
Well, and that's one of the reasons why they do it.
you
And,
know.
well, and that's actually, when you start looking, that's actually a direction with raising the property that various organizations are going because some of those planes are just too low. And a lot of communities are actually trying to find different, I know in different ways to address that problem, right? Because just
have-
raising,
We
If I
have
may.
locally raised our lands on
Yeah.
my street, which is
Mhm.
why we have less flooding than we used to have. We've just put more dirt and mulch and things in front to raise it.
Yeah,
But you could do a massive raise.
yeah. Mhm.
It's going to cost money, but then you can add a huge tall structure on top of that. So
Yeah,
I
and,
think we need to look at that.
I just wanted to say, I heard the comment that somebody from the public, a member of the public made with regard to that. I think it was a gentleman who was on Zoom. And I did ask Alex, he's on vacation this week, but I said, I'm sorry to intrude. I texted him while I was sitting there and I said, was there any particular reason why the issue of actual height in feet was not addressed? And he said that there was no particular reason. I think that they thought that was addressed in another section of the code, but I looked and in reality, not only is the building height not given in feet anywhere in the code, but also as far as I could tell, there's no definition of building height. In other words, so how it's measured, from where it's measured. And so Alex said, if that's the direction that the commission wants to go, we certainly can add building height. Typically for a single family dwelling unit, it ranges, but it can be anywhere from 25 feet to 35 feet measured from wherever you choose, whether that's great as measured from the street, the highest point of the street in front of the property, or if the issue is resilience. And I know the manager is probably familiar with this because in my other wearing my other hat, I serve as the planning and zoning official for North Bay Village, and that's one community that is dealing with resilience, sea level rise issues very serious. And we've taken baby steps to address those issues and sort of kind of trying to find the balance between allowing people to raise their homes for that safety factor, but at the same time mitigating the potential impact of creating these real differences between the existing homes that are at grade measured from a different point and these new homes that are going to be measured from a different point. So all of those things are possible, and we just await direction, and we can do that.
Thank you very much. And thank you for being here. And thank you for being patient and staying through all the baloney.
My pleasure. It's always interesting to see the different dynamics in the different communities.
That was such a diplomatic way to put it. Okay.
I enjoy it. Listen, I'm a planner. I'm a nerd that way. What can I say?
May I, Ginny? Okay, so I know you're new to the project, and I appreciate you coming here and helping us with this tonight. I'm the one who initially brought this to the commission. Goodness, how long ago was it, you guys? A year and a half ago? I can't remember now. Something like that, going on that. And at the time, I put together a presentation, and then we handed it off to Alex and Gianni, and off they went with it. And we had some other meetings. I have to say, I'm a little disappointed, maybe more than a little, with what I'm looking at here, because I don't see much really addressed in here. It looks like they did some reorganization of our code and some other things, but some of the really substantive things that we brought to their attention, I don't see them addressed in here. Sylvia, unless I'm not seeing them, I'm not in your world.
Can you
But
give me
my
some
husband
examples?
does, and he looked at it and he's like, yeah, where is it?
Okay.
For example, Judy brought up height. So it's the height of individual floors and the height of the building altogether and what that means in regards to whatever's on top. In the presentation that I brought forward to the commission, the last page, the second to last page was a slide that basically said, here's what's not covered in our code that many other communities have. And maybe these are the topics that should be addressed to help us wrangle what our issues are with some development in the village. We did not present that we did not give them the list and say, here's the list, tell us what to do. But we did say, I did a lot of research in other communities and they even complimented it at the time and said, that's a pretty extensive list and that you did a lot of the work for us. I'm like, great, off you go. But I don't see very much of it addressed in here. So height is one, certainly, of the building and of the individual floors. Setbacks, they seem to have addressed in here, and I see where that is, but I don't see the specific setback language regarding the design choice of a straight line home. So we will allow someone to build a two-story home, I should say, with the second story in line with the first story, but I don't see what clearly stated in here what the setback for that would be. I think what their intent was that it would be the second story setback that we're looking at on here, but I don't see that specified in here. We asked them to also on the list. Well, I mean, someone here, Shantae or Mario, can send you the list. They have the list, but the other things included maximum lot size because we don't have anything that precludes combining lots. And is that something we should address so we don't have monster McMansions built here because people bought 3 lots on Griffith? I'm not suggesting we make that change. I'm just saying it was on the list and I was expecting them to see a report back that said, here's what we put in here and here's what we didn't address and here's why we didn't address it for you guys. We don't feel it's appropriate in your community because of blah, 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 or we feel it's addressed by something else. I don't know. They seem to think this list was comprehensive enough to work from, but I don't see the vast majority of it addressed in any way.
Okay.
There's balconies and exterior living space that is becoming an issue and will become more and more so as some of these big houses are built and how those impact the residences around them and the residents who live in those residences. And they're not currently considered in the square footage for code calculation. So that was another thing. Maximum square footage of building by lot size, story height, building height, glass, windows and doors are addressed in here somewhat, but not really as completely as I thought they might be. No special consideration for combining lots. The floor elevation above grade you just addressed. Landscaping, I think we're going to address separately. It's going to come up tonight, actually. Lot division, and then how multi-family dwellings are handled. Now, beyond that list, that's what I was really hoping to see. It's what I was expecting to see was, okay, from your list, here's what we think you should do. And from your list, here's what we think you should skip. And from what's not on your list, here's what else we think you might consider. That's what I was expecting to see.
All right.
I also have a short list of other specific things in here that I don't even want to bother discussing because they're really like 10.3.1 F as in Frank, I think there should be a comma after the word, wall. But there are some things I would want to address with them with you guys later.
Okay. All right. That's all
So
fair.
I'm just letting you know that I'm a little
I
disappointed in
appreciate
this.
that.
Yeah.
I appreciate the feedback. And I can't answer for my colleagues as to the rationale for choosing certain items or addressing certain items, not choosing them, but there may be something that I am just not aware of and,
Right.
and able to present to you tonight in that respect,
But for Alex to say back to you with all due respect, and Alex isn't here,
Yes.
but for him to text back to you, I thought it was addressed somewhere else. Height was addressed somewhere else in the code. If that's what I understood he said to you, that really disappoints me because
I
he
may
knows
have
it's not, in our
Yeah.
code and he knows it was on the list. And that was one of the very most basic things that was supposed to be addressed in here is maximum building height and floor height.
I'm going to try not to accidentally throw him under the bus because I may have misinterpreted
Okay.
what he told me.
Okay, 1 second. Gage, head of our.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm sorry, I had
There you
a
go.
little hungry, so I wasn't sure how long it would be until we got to this. Just 2 things regarding the height. I did notice, I went back and looked at the workshop that we had, and one of the bullet points was height. So I don't know, they actually said, 2 stories, 25, 30, 35 feet, question mark. So it was something that was discussed. It just somehow has not made it into the current proposal so far. And the other thing too is under definitions, you do have the definition of grade. So you are kind of starting the process of establishing a baseline for the building by having a definition for grade, but I don't think the actual word grade actually is inside of any of the proposed changes yet. So maybe that was the beginning of the discussion of height when the word grade was introduced as a definition at 2.2.30. So yeah, so there's still a little more work to go on this, and I think it's a good start and a good direction. But and then Mac brought up a couple extra questions that should be addressed before it comes back to the planning board, and then we can discuss it all. So just wanted to.
Gage, it's Mac. Do you think we should kick this back to Calvin Giordano and take it off of your agenda for next week and have them do some more work on this before we bother sending it to you guys?
It wouldn't be next week. I think we have a special meeting coming up for a bunch of different things.
Yeah,
So-
whatever it is, it's this month. But
be
do
2
you
weeks.
think? Do you think we should send this back to them and say do some more work on this, guys, before we send it through our board?
Well, I guess the question is when does Alex David come back from his vacation? Yeah, when does he come back from his vacation?
He's coming, well, I'm hoping he comes back. But
He may not if he's listening in.
he seemed very, very keen on his vacation, but he's coming back at the end of this week. He should be back in the office on Monday.
Okay.
So do you think address
I'm sorry,
that?
Gage, go ahead.
Do you think that would give enough time to address it before coming to us on the 20? I think it's the 20th. I think Mario, 21st,
29th.
29th. This is the 29th, okay.
That would give him only a week.
Well, we could ask
Back
him,
on
we could
Monday.
say send it back. to
Monday's
Calvin
the
Giordano.
22nd.
We could say send it back to them, and if they get it done for the meeting, yes, and if they don't, Gage, I guess you guys could do that special meeting without that one on the agenda, or you could cancel the meeting altogether if you think you should just wait on the whole thing. But it just seems kind of odd to send it to P and Z for P and Z's input when there's things that aren't addressed in there.
Yeah, no, I'm totally open to that. If they want to delay it and move it into into September, that's fine. They can add it to one of our regular meetings, as long as the agenda is not, heavily with a lot of applications. But our special meeting is there's other items that we need to be addressed that we'll take on during that meeting too. So.
I just asked Mario, our relationship with Calvin Giordano ends at the end of August, and we're going to be we're moving on to the new company. But he just told me that they will finish this project because it was contracted. So at least we know we're not going to be left high and dry on this.
Okay, good.
So guys, that's what I think we should do. I don't think this is ready to go to P and Z. I think we should hand this back to Calvin Giordano. What do you guys think?
I agree. I agree.
Unless Alex wants to come in and just discuss it with us, some more. I mean, the door is open. Let's put it that way. But I'll leave it up to you guys to decide.
What do you guys think?
Can you turn on the mic?
I think it's taken quite a long time to get to where we're at right now, and I just don't see this happening in a week. But I mean, the quicker we tell them what we want and send it back, but it's going to take who knows how long it's going to take to get back.
Well, but I'd rather see it get done right
Oh, yeah.
than have it go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back.
And I don't want to waste Gage and his board's time with something that's incomplete. It's like it's 70% of the stuff is even there. Why have them address it? So I think we should do that. We need to vote on that, or it's just a
No.
discussion item?
It's just a discussion item. Okay, thank you.
Once this is complete, are we planning on having another sit down with the community and go over these things? Is that part of the plan?
There would be 3 opportunities for the community to speak, the planning board and the 2 hearings, if the commission wants to add another workshop.
Yeah,
Up
I
to the
would like,
commission.
I would like to add another workshop. This is a very serious topic that honestly, I'm not that comfortable even addressing. I think that I would like to hear more from the community. I'm hearing a lot of things from the community and a lot of it is not positive. So I would like to get a lot more community input. So
Yeah, I think based on what they saw here, I can imagine why they might be like, what
Yeah.
is this? So
So I think that we should, once we get this settled, do at least one more workshop. That's just my 2 cents on that.
I think that's
No
a
problem.
good idea. Can we put a date for that?
okay, I want to bring up one other related thing that I talked to Valerie about. So the idea that we might need to redesignate our planning and zoning board as an architectural review board to give them the ability to do certain things regarding what will be in this code now. Valerie, do you want to address that with us?
Yes, during public comment, somebody had raised, ask your attorney about House Bill 401. So House Bill 401 was adopted in the 2021 legislative session. And it provides that local governments cannot regulate exterior colors, exterior cladding, location of doors and windows, garage orientation, these types of design features unless they have a design review board or an architectural review board. I understand that our planning board has essentially functioned as that, but the statute's very specific as to the name of the board. I think we would be able to effectuate that by either creating a design review board that basically the planning board serves as both, kind of like they do in other capacities for the comp plan, for example, or just renaming them and then putting these duties within their purview, at the planning and design and review, something to that effect. But that would require 2 readings, and we can do that contemporaneous with the amendments to the land development code when they proceed.
2 questions about that. Does it change the requirements of the people that we appoint to the board in any way?
No.
Okay. And the second question is making a giant circle inside my skull. God, it was a doozy, Ginny. I forget what it was.
Well, we've renamed all our other boards, so what's the difference to rename one more?
Does it? Oh, I know what it was. If we did not move forward with this McMansion thing at all, it never happened, let's say, does redesignating the board in that way provide them any other authority that would be helpful to us in some way, like interpreting the things that are in our code now and giving them more authority on design things? Because that's kind of what it does, right? So separate from this, does it help them out do their job if we just change their name anyway?
Before you answer that, maybe we can, Gage has to have something to say on that.
Yeah, just I remember when this state statute was passed, we did have a conversation. I wasn't sure. I can't remember if it was just Mario or Mario with Valerie, but we thought that we could handle the requirements of the state statute by just having a name change, because it really there's no definition of what the board that they're looking for is in the statute. It just says the name of what it should be. So this has been something that's been discussed, and I think it's something that could be handled by a simple name change.
So maybe we should just do that anyway.
Without changing any of our given duties or responsibilities or rules or anything like that. It just by renaming it.
We'll look to see if we can add more stuff for you, Gage.
Well, that's what Valerie's about to say.
Just to add to review design elements.
So that would be their additional function. Well, then why don't we just do that now so we
Well,
have
that's
that
what my
done?
thought is. I would
Yeah.
rather not wait to tie it into this.
Yeah,
I would
let's just
rather
get it
go
done.
ahead and do it as a separate entity to get that squared away now, because as we go back and forth
Yeah.
on the land use, it could be months. So I'd rather we become compliant ASAP.
Do I need to make a motion for that?
No, that there's
No, that's an
consensus.
ordinance.
Can I make one anyway, just for fun? Because that makes me feel
no.
important.
Does anybody
No.
object?
Resolution or an order?
No, but
No, it's an
I have a
ordinance.
motion right now.
So
I understand the
We'll bring it
consensus,
back.
and I'll bring an ordinance back.
We'll bring an ordinance back. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Val.
Sounds classier, huh, Gage?
Kind of does. I like it. But it does give them that separate design kind of function, which I think is good for them to have anyway.
Okay, we all agree to the name change also. Okay, so On the next item, what I would like to do because of the hour is I would like to make a motion, a motion to have Vice Mayor Samaria do his 911 presentation. Do we need that in a motion? Or can we?
I think what I'm basically asking,
Can you turn on your mic, please?
trying, I don't want, when I'm burping, I don't want people to hear it. Basically, there's two items. One, I've been doing this for since 9/11. Is having where I have a 9/11 collection that I have at the rec center that's there for 30 days. And of course, in the last couple of years, I've signed a waiver that says doesn't hold the village responsible for any damage or anything. And I'm willing to continue to sign that. The date for the collection will be from September 1st to September 30th. That will be held at the rec center. And then my 9/11, as the chief has informed me many times, the 9/11 has to be done on 9/11. I used to have it where it was just we celebrated. But this time, 9/11 falls on Sunday, so that falls right into my plan. So what I want to have first off, have the commission give me permission to have my collection at the rec center, waive the fee, which we always done.
Finish your presentation and we'll.
There's the presentation. And the second one is to have the 9/11 be done on September 11th, which is a Sunday. And the time would be from 2 to 3.
2 o'clock?
2 o'clock to 3 o'clock. That'll be the ceremony, which will be.
Okay, does all the commissioners agree? Judy?
Fine.
Okay. We finished that. You have permission. Okay,
Thank
the
you.
next item is the swale ordinance discussion. Mario.
So Commission, after a lot of discussion, legal and I worked to, mainly legal, kind of putting the ordinance together based on the consensus that we had at the last commission meeting. So that's what's presented to you all.
Is there any discussion on that? Commissioner Kennedy?
Sorry, I'm not going to go first on this one. What I am going to say, I'm glad we brought this back as a draft ordinance because I said this is going to be a big, we're not anywhere near as done with this. So, and we saw a big outpouring of opinion from the community on this. And I have to say, it was really nice to see just people engaged on something because we haven't seen that for a while. Since COVID, we haven't seen a cabin full of people. So it was nice just to see people cared about something enough to come out. So I think we have a lot of work to do on this. Oh, I think we have a lot of.
They'll be back when the cats.
Yes, they might be back for the cats. Wait till I put cats on next door and see what this building looks like. I might be strung from the rafters, but whatever. Sean, I'm blaming it all on you.
But at the same time, people came out because they were told they were going to have to rip out their front yard plants, and that was not true.
Oh, it's a
We
distinct
never
possibility.
discussed them ripping out
was
their
not true.
front yard
Well,
plantings.
it absolutely
and
was. a
their
distinct
front yard
possibility.
gardens, and that is very offensive to me. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's not, I'm sorry if you're offended, but look, the intent of this discussion from the very beginning was for some of you was to create that clear zone and get that all cleaned out. It was tripping hazards and need to step out and you wanted to get it cleared out. So I think really what we heard here tonight is people value these gardens along the
Yeah,
street.
but they also were here with Miss.
Okay, I'll disagree with you on that, but here's the point.
I mean, that's
that-
like the Sixth Avenue thing where people thought in the middle of the night, we're going to go dig up their lawns on the Sixth Avenue thing. The same
Okay.
thing is here. They thought we're going to go cut down up their trees.
And the way this ordinance is written right now, what's there is not grandfathered in. So there's that for starters. But let's get to the bigger topic. What people are really came here and said was, in addition to what's there, don't touch it. We need to allow for that. we need to allow for gardens to go in there
We need
because
also parking.
okay.
People
And we
need to
need a
park
But,
place
somewhere.
okay,
to
but the
keep
point
our
is that
step
we
out
can
of
go
the
through this
streets.
line for line, but the point is that it's the person's choice. This is a choice issue. It's your house, your choice what to do with the swale.
I have my swale covered and a worker can't, they're gonna go park on somebody else's when they're working at my.
Well, according to what's in
My
this, they're
guess.
gonna have to ask permission from that person before they do it.
Oh, no, we never discussed the permission thing.
Okay,
You
well-
brought it up and it got shot down, so.
Okay. Okay, well, it's in there now. So at any rate,
Well,
this is so much to wrangle. I'm not even sure where to start. So if one of you,
If I can make a recommendation, why don't we start probably with the most contentious item, which is, well, let's start with the grandfathering, because I think maybe there's some confusion as to that, and I don't know if that's gonna direct the rest of the conversation. Subsection J, nonconformities, provides that a nonconforming swale, when it's deteriorated to 50%, then that's when it would need to be brought up to code. Essentially, it can remain until it's deteriorated up to 50%.
but that's not what it says.
If a non-conforming swale is deteriorated or destroyed or damaged in excess of 50% or requires repairs, then the entire swale shall be brought up to the current swale standards.
That's what it says.
But that's not the language we use when we write this for other things. For example, here's what we wrote for driveways. For there's nothing in here that says it's allowed until. That's what's missing. This does not, when I read this does not say it's grandfathered in because it doesn't say allowed until. For driveways, we said existing non-conforming parking surfaces may remain unless a substantial portion, 50% or greater, requires repair or . So that's not what this says. So to me, it doesn't mean that.
I think absolutely that was the intent.
I-
That's a quick fix.
think
We
it's
can add
okay.
that language. So now we understand it's going to be grandfathered.
Okay.
Let's say non-conforming may remain until 50%. So now we have that. I think the next big issue is
Okay,
going
but-
to be the 5-foot setback.
Okay, but I'm not done with that. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean.
No, no, it's
Next
okay.
issue.
Because let's talk about this 50% now. So if we have a drought, I'm trying to think of a thing, and half the ground cover that someone puts out in their front yard dries up and is dead. So
They have to
now the whole thing is non-conforming and it all has to come out.
Absolutely. If they don't,
Okay, well, that's absurd. I'm sorry, but that's just absurd.
Mac, but to
Or-
Valerie's point, okay, if the 5-foot thing is not an issue, this is a moot point. So if the 5-foot that we're discussing, of
Right.
pushing it back 5 foot is not an issue,
Well, then this doesn't matter.
then this is not a moot point.
So
So
if
I
we
think that's the
No, But she
first thing.
started with this.
What if we
Well,
change it to a
But I think that
2-foot?
it's,
So that you could at least get your feet in a baby carriage off the street.
I'm not sure that 2 feet, 5
So-
feet, 6 inches, I'm not sure what it still even accomplishes. It just seems so arbitrary and capricious somehow, and it's kind of like, what?
so based on the
You have no
feedback,
Sidewalks.
so based
You have
on,
understand.
people in danger.
So-
Can I show, go ahead and finish your thought. I wanna-
so based on the feedback that we got from this dais this evening, from the community that was here, I think it's clear that at least one person has changed their mind. So I think that that's the first thing that we need to tackle, and then we can go from there.
So, and I think then we're not calling a vote on obviously, this is just a discussion item on the final item, but just on that 5-foot setback issues, and I know whether to revise it in a resultant ordinance. Do you guys want a 5-foot setback for landscaping in the swale?
Can I show you guys something? Because, and I don't mean to be kind of flip about this, but I just want to, I put something together for you, a little presentation. Well, but this visual is going to help people, I think, sort of get that, unless you think it's all going to be one vote now. Why do you think everyone's going to vote no on that now?
We just need a consensus. So Art has already said, I'm sorry, Commissioner, my apologies. Commissioner Gonzalez has already indicated that he's changed his mind. He would not want the setback. No, I'm sorry.
I'm confused. And what do
He
you?
not wants a 5-foot setback. You want people to be able to develop their landscaping on their swale all the way up to the, you also would like that as well. Commissioner Samaria or Vice Mayor Samaria, what would you like? Because if that's 3, then that's where we
I'm gonna flip through these pictures while you guys talk about this, because I want you to see this. This is these are actual,
Thinking, yeah.
these are actual, up on the screen, you can look. I'm gonna flip through these.
He's thinking, I want the 5-foot setback.
These are the real implications of what we're talking about. So if you look on the left, this guy's walking down the street. This is 11th place. He's walking past cars, and that would be allowed. Okay, so we allow cars to park along the side of the street, and that gentleman cannot safely get off the street in a situation that we're allowing in the village. By the way, it looks,
It's that multi-house residence,
it
right?
doesn't matter where it is because it happens all throughout the village.
Oh, but for the cars parked that way.
Doesn't matter that they're parked that way, Ginny. If they're parking parallel, there are still cars there that are ugly and he can't get off the road safely. But if you look on the right, that's a hedge on 100 and on 9th Avenue. That is less than 5 feet off the road, and that would not be allowed. If you guys agree to this 5-foot thing, that hedge would not be allowed where that gentleman could very easily step off the street.
That's not much of a step off, though. Come on, he squeezed between a car and bushes with what, 12 inches?
I'm sorry?
He's only got 12
Just
inches.
have to trim his hedges a little bit better.
No, no. Look, the point is that there are two things we discussed. One was safety and aesthetics came up too. The cars are a much less safe situation for that pedestrian. Look here. That is a van parked on the side of the road. Per this new code, that's allowed. But the beautiful garden on the right is not allowed because that's within 5 feet of the street. That's only like 2 feet off the street. His mailbox, by the way, this is Robert Free's house on 118th Street. A lot of people know it because of his beautiful gardens that have been there for the 30+ years that he's lived here. That mailbox is in the 5 feet and the croton and the plants on the right are within 5 feet. That would not be allowed, but that van is allowed to sit there. And I'm not saying the van shouldn't be. That's a separate conversation. But the van's allowed to be there, but Robert's garden is not. Sean, I think your house is coming up. I hope you're not offended. Here's another one. Cars parked along the swale. Now, one of these has its tires on the road. That's a separate issue. Don't worry about that. There are plenty of places where cars are butt to nose along our swales, and it is not a temporary thing. It's a 24/7 thing in front of many, many, many houses in this village. That's allowed on the left per this code. But that's Drew Dilworth's house on the right. He was here and spoke tonight. Much of his front garden would not be allowed. Look at that man's gorgeous house and gorgeous garden.
Yeah, but actually, a lot of it is low enough, it would be allowed. We're not
No,
mandating
not when
they
you
have.
say no plants within 5 feet. Hold on, there's more. Here's. Because I'm showing you the actual
And
impact.
actually, those little concrete things are illegal there. They need to be 18 inches from the roadway by ordinance.
Okay? I'm talking about the landscaping. That's Ricardo Guzman. He was here tonight. He's the guy who lives across from the basketball court, who has cars running over his yard all the time. One of you go tell him that he has too many of those things and they're too close to the road. Okay, but Dan, we're discussing the code tonight.
We have. an
Or
ordinance
to your
and the
question, the
county
point of
has
showing
it.
you these pictures is to show you that on the left is something that this code would absolutely allow that truck to sit there on the side of the road. Yeah.
Get it, but you're not going to change anybody's mind is what I'm trying to tell you.
Thanks for the vote of confidence, Art.
Listen, I'm being honest.
Okay, then if they're not going to, I want them to look at
How do
this.
you know it's them? Because somebody already may have changed their mind. They
Okay,
already said they changed their mind earlier.
great. I want them to see this. This is what I'm talking about, the real implications. On the left is one of our broken things, but the people on the right can't have the stake to keep people from running over their gorgeous lawn.
Bring one up since you brought it up, your landscaping, that yours
Okay,
is.
I'm going to stop you right there, Dan.
But it's
I don't want, no. I'm going to stop you right there. This is the third time you've brought up my,
right.
stop, please.
Point of order, Mayor. I think it's time to call the meeting.
Oh, for God's sake, Judy, stop. Ridiculous. We're having a meeting and we're a bunch of adults so we can talk and
You're not
disagree.
behaving like an adult right
Oh,
now.
you're not
Sorry.
my grandmother, Judy.
Okay, now, hey,
Christ.
knock it off. Knock it off.
Dan,
or
please,
we'll
to
adjourn
my
the
point, Dan, please stop talking about the guard. It's just inappropriate, Dan, for you to do that. It's really inappropriate. You've done it 3 times now.
We're not
The very
supposed to
first time you
discuss
brought the topic
individual
up, you showed a picture of my front
personalities.
yard and said, this is
Make
what
a
we're going to
motion
stop.
to adjourn the meeting.
Okay, are we telling anybody whether we agree or disagree with the 5-foot? We're gonna just BS on all this. Judy, what do you think about the setback? What do you think it should be?
Well, I think it should be at least enough for a person in a baby carriage to pull off the road.
Okay, what about you?
I don't think that this is an issue now. I don't think it's been an issue. I think that it's currently in our code, what's allowed currently. And I'm okay with what's currently written.
It's going to be grandfathered in right now. So I mean, it's whatever, it's in our code. I just.
Okay, it's one thing to have
Already-
it
it's
grandfathered in, but then now you have a
Wait, can we go
situation.
One at a time. What did you say?
Basically,
What do you think there should be a setback?
I think it should be enough to wear a stroller. And I mean, that's not that much of a difference.
So you're talking about a 3-foot setback, Judy, or a?
My God, we're just
5
going to pull numbers out of our asses here and
Okay.
write a code.
Excuse me.
It's unbelievable.
Again,
2 feet, 3 feet, 5 feet. Come on, guys. That's not how you write code. I understand.
Certainly not 5.
Well, then show me some statistics on what a baby carriage and baby carriage and a walker need to get off the road. I mean, really, we can't just sit here and make stuff up that we think sounds good. This isn't what we do.
what I based it on when I put the 5-foot in was the previous work done by the Code Review Board, which included Fred Jonas, Dale Blanton, Gage Hartung, Gary Kuehl, myself, and I think there might have been 1 or 2 others in there that I can't recall at this moment.
Okay, great. So
I did not pull a number out of my ass.
So guys, but we are going to allow cars and trucks and SUVs and everything else to park on swales. So if our argument is that this is a safety issue, okay, which is the reason that all this came up initially was this is a safety issue. By the way, we have medians that people can walk on, by the way, just FYI. Okay, but about most of the streets. But anyway, if it's a safety issue, then we should also discuss the possibility of not allowing vehicles at all to park on swales. No vehicles.
How about this with the vehicles? And I understand what you're saying about the vehicles. How about this? Where we have the vehicles, if we're saying it's 3 foot or whatever foot we're deciding for the stroller, that the cars for the swale have to be moved in.
how are you going to have the police go around? What are they going to do? Ticket people, tow cars because it's only 18 inches off the road and not 24 inches off the road? It's an unenforceable thing for our police department to try to manage. And code's not in the village
No,
24.
I mean,
I appreciate where you're going with this.
it just logically, to me, it makes no sense to have an argument about safety. And then you have big SUVs, you have big trucks, you have all sorts of vehicles parked on these swales. And so where are the people going to step off and jump on top of the truck?
Yep.
It's just, to me, it's a hypocritical position.
It's just not it's
About
not-
safety and talk about this.
Ours are temporarily parked.
Yes, that's fine.
Time.
Ours are not.
People walk
Ours are not
temporarily.
temporarily.
In the ground is permanent.
People walk temporarily. They don't stand
Exactly.
in front of somebody's yard waiting for a car to come by to jump. They're there for 5 seconds as they walk by.
Judy,
They're also there temporarily.
there
I
are
really
cars
wasn't
parked
looking at the
around this
Safety
village.
issue, it was actually the practical issue of workers and people and guests being able to park somewhere. I never considered a safety issue because I didn't
This-
think it was.
Yeah, but
This all started with this. It was.
this all started with safety, but this doesn't also mean that everybody in this village is gonna run out and plant their swale. I ain't. And the majority of the people that haven't touched their swales are not gonna touch their
Aren't going
swales.
to. That's right.
So,
But why take that opportunity away from people if that's the choice they want to make for their property? And they're the ones that have to maintain that property, mind you. It's public property that they're required to maintain at their own expense. So why shouldn't they have it developed in a way that they want to? Why should they have to mow if they don't want to mow?
Listen, one thing I'm gonna say, and this is true, this is how I feel about the situation with everybody that showed up here tonight. I think they were brought here, most of these people came under false pretenses that we were going to rip out their landscape. That's the truth. Having said that, it's clear that not only the folks that were here, but the folks that I've spoken to outside of here, that this is a non-issue, that they don't want nothing to do with this. And I have not had one person that has come to me and said, oh, this is a great idea. Not one. So if y'all feel, and again, for me, I'm here to represent what the people want, not what I want. So if y'all feel that this is something that your constituents, the people that voted you here and brought you to this day, this is something that's really important to them, I don't know who they are, then go ahead and vote for it. I have not seen that, and I can't support it.
Any other discussion on this?
There's so much more to discuss on I'm sorry, there's so much more to discuss on this ordinance. This is just really one of the many things in there. I don't know how deep you guys, I don't even know where to take this from here. So look, people did show up because what we're looking at is an ordinance that did not say that things are grandfathered in, and they heard people freely speak with intent that things should go, and it was all safety stuff. But all of that is now done. But clearly what you heard is people also value landscaping. How many people stood up here or on Zoom and said, the reason I moved here was, comma, they all said it. They value it. They love it. And a lot of these people are people who walk around the village. I don't know how much you guys walk around the village. I walk almost daily. And there are people who walk these streets to look at gardens. When COVID happened, I put in that front garden for the kids so they'd have something to come look at, is really what that was about. And I got it certified as a butterfly garden. Kids still show up to come look at do you have any caterpillars? This is Biscayne Park. This is what we are. There is not this is not solving a safety
Guest
issue.
Park.
In my driveway.
Okay, you got more than 3 guests, 3 cars. Where would they park?
I don't know. I tell them to go park somewhere else. I tell them to Uber. I tell them to take a freebie. Actually, I'm having a special event with a lot of people coming, and I'm telling them all to Uber in. I sent out an invitation and said, and you need to Uber in because there's no parking. So I did.
You know what I mean.
I do know what you mean. Look, I've had workers come and they get their trucks in my driveway. They deal. They deal.
Your driveway is not that big. And
Exactly. And I purposely designed it that way to disguise.
So you didn't
This
get-
isn't about my garden, but it was purposely just, look, I can fit a lot of cars in my driveway. It just doesn't look like it because I hit it really nicely. So look, there are people value certain things about this community. And when you talk to people, you hear things like someone said large lots. I think Sean said it, large lots, right? You and your wife picked here because of the large lots. And the green and the trees and the gardens and the flowers. This is Biscayne Park. This is what makes us special. And we're soft around the edges. We're not the straight line community, hard line in the sand. We're soft around the edges, and we're green and we're lush. And I think it's just a crime to do anything that would limit. It's one thing if you're going to say change the language to grandfather everybody in, that's great. Then my garden's fine. Great, my garden's fine. I vote yes, let's move on. It's not what it's about. We should be promoting this. And if someone moves in next door and they want to do it, I think in some ways they might have an argument that you're not allowing me to develop my property to its greatest value when the guy next door was able to,
Yeah, but that's not a good argument because we're trying to do the same thing with the land development thing. So yeah, that's a difficult argument.
Right, but we're also protecting the people who live around them.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I get it, but
That's what a lot of that land development stuff is. It's the people who are impacted by those houses who live around them.
but that's
The people who have those.
fine line you're walking.
I
there.
know, but talk to the people who live next to them and they'll tell you, yeah, go walk in Robert's backyard and look up at the concrete wall.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, exactly. That's why you left where you lived, right? I forgot that. So I think it's just to grandfather them in and then to say that other people can't do it. And to Art's point, how many people are doing it?
It's, we put in our driveway and we put in everything else that if they grandfathered in, but if they do any rebuilding of their driveway, they have to replace the whole driveway.
Or if it
Same thing with the planting.
or if it deteriorates.
If they redo their plants. That's the same, it's the same concept.
So Dan, let me
Explain
give you,
to
let me
what's the
give you
difference.
let me give you a what if scenario, and I won't use my garden, I'll use Sean's. A car comes careening because we have this ridiculous traffic problem in Biscayne Park that I hope we get to talk about here before we leave tonight. No. And a car careens down, is careening north on 8th Avenue and crashes into his front garden and wipes it out.
Okay,
Is he not allowed to replace it?
okay, so then what is the same scenario if somebody does it to your driveway?
How do they wipe out my driveway?
Any driveway.
I'm not saying your drive, yes. I'm not using your drive. I'm asking you a question in reference to drive. It's
But-
any driveway.
But how would my driveway get damaged like that?
Okay, not your driveway, any driveway.
How would any driveway get damaged by a car driving across it
Would
or a
be
hurricane?
from some of the trucks. Some of the.
You get out there and you get out there and you clean it up.
Crazy that they couldn't rebuild it if a car damaged.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Or if a hurricane came, hurricanes blow trees down. So you're saying I can't go cut down the plants and let them grow back up? I have to take them all out? Oh, a hurricane damaged half of your front garden. Take the rest of it out. Plants grow back, folks. You cut them back, you trim them the right way, you put in some new posies around the bottom of the tree, and they're back in, here in Florida, shit, the hell, they're back in 2 months.
You know, I don't think anybody listening to
So much
this
for
would
shit that
believe this conversation tonight.
I know, exactly. I agree.
Really don't. Is there any other subject we have to cover before 10 minutes?
Well, what are we going to do with this item, guys? It's an actual item in front of us. It's a draft ordinance of something that you guys intend to push through as new code. So what are we going to do with it?
I think we ought to, can you vote to table it?
No, I'm not. I want to move this. We've been talking about this forever. I want to move this forward.
Based on my notes, I have that the mayor and Commissioner Hammelberg and Vice Mayor Samaria all want a setback. There was not consensus, I think, on the number of feet, but there was 3 for maintaining a setback.
You guys, that's your final say for sure, 100%.
September is going to be an interesting
Is
meeting.
that's our final.
Is that your final answer? Because, hey, listen, you guys,
I think if we,
my mic is on.
because I don't want to, when I'm coughing, I don't need people to hear me coughing. Okay. I know what everybody's saying in reference to the cars, so I know you're saying you can't enforce it, or you didn't say anything, chief, but he's saying that you can't enforce it. It's the same concept that I have with the cars. The cars are too close to the road. If I walk with and I agree with you 100%. If I'm walking in a car and I hit the car, that's the same thing, as I can be damaged the same way as safety wise. I just think that if the planting is just enough to walk with people. Okay, let me just see, hypothetically, suppose a garbage company comes along and knocks your plants off. Okay, really destroys your plants. Are you going to be, oh, that's okay. Are you going to be very angry? I'm asking hypothetically. If a company, garbage company, or even a pest control company comes and runs all over your plants, are you going to be okay with it?
Creepy critters. I'm calling Lewis on his cell phone. Okay, if it's 3 a.m, your phone's going to be ringing. Okay, I understand what you're saying. Then I would be, of course, I'd be
Because I
livid, and then
guarantee-
I'd be out there at 7 o'clock the next morning. With
I
the trash
guarantee,
can
I
in my arm.
guarantee you a resident is,
Pick it up.
I'll solve this problem.
I
I'll
guarantee a
solve this
resident's
problem.
not going to be happy.
Unless I hear really a lot of people coming in saying that they're for the setback. I'll vote no setback. We are now 3-2.
Okay.
Okay, is that over? Okay, is there anything else? We got 8 minutes? Is there anything, we don't need your addition of tree selection for an avenue.
Well, that's only one of a million
There's
things.
still things on the swale that we have to discuss. We're not finished with the swale.
Oh, not even close.
No, and I think we need to table it, and I think we need to table a lot of things because
I'll agree with Judy.
there's not much we can do in 8 minutes, Jenny. We got another month.
Is there anything?
We've got another meeting in 2 days for the budget.
Not ready for.
Is there any announcements we need? Mario?
We have the manager evaluation and budget, second budget workshop on Thursday, August 18th, beginning at 6 p.m. here at the Log Cabin. It's also going to be streamed. And just more of an FYI, the village did receive the water pump that we purchased. So that is already at Public Works.
And remind us, is there training involved with anyone learning how to use that thing, or is it something pretty
Our
self-explanatory?
Public Works crews were informed how to maintain and operate the pump.
Okay, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Happy to make a motion to adjourn.
Seconded by.
I'll second it.
O'Halpin. Meeting adjourned. Good night, everyone. Have a pleasant